All right, holiday travel well underway here in Music City. You've got the usual brake tap and slowdowns both directions of 65 there through Goodlettsville. Then again, Mount Juliet Road, either side of I-40. Eastbound 440 is like a parking lot from 65 over to 24. Then that continues eastbound 24 from 440. I'm Ken Weaver.
Minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, and you're listening to my voice, and you're probably saying, I didn't sound at all like Matt Murphy, and you would be right. I am your friend and allegedly retired radio buddy. I'm your FAARRB, your FARB, in for Matt Murphy today. He's taking the day off and we'll be back on Monday. And so, I'm looking for something to do, sitting around here twiddling my thumbs. And they said, hey, why don't you come and fill in for Matt? So here I am, all the way till 7 o'clock. And I'm joined, and I'm thrilled to be joined by the one, the only Ken Weaver in the newsroom closet. Good morning, good afternoon to you, Ken.
Oh, glad to be with you, Brother Brian.
What time of day is it? Good afternoon, Ken. How are you?
Well, we did mornings for so long, man.
Yeah, I know.
Still feels like it.
Saying Ken Weaver and saying morning seems like it's the way it should be.
Right.
And then we got Ryan. We got Brian and Ryan. Ryan pushing all the blinky buttons here. So
yes,
we're in. For 4 hours of exciting news and information you can use as we head into the 250th anniversary of the founding of this nation. Wow, what an exciting time it is. It's also a concerning time. I mean, what's going on? We're turning 250 years old. And we have rising within this country communism. I mean, what in the world is going on? We fought wars to limit communism, and now it's coming in the back door, and many of our major cities are now run by communists, and communism, and, well, they call it the Democrat socialism. It's the same thing. They're all about, government is the answer. We're going to do all this and that. So it's a very difficult time. And then you have these anarchists out there who are causing all kinds of problems. They like to stir up fights with the ICE folks. They travel from event to event. I don't know what happened, but I can tell you this. There has been a damage done to the reflecting pool in our nation's capital. Now, the president spent, $13-14 million to get this fixed. It was actually the Interior Department, not Trump himself. But because Trump was attached to it, and because there are these people with Trump derangement syndrome in this country, and you have these anarchists, somebody went in there and started cutting up. So it's sort of a rubberized coating on this thing. They had to do it. They were losing, I read at one point, 40,000 gallons of water a day, because the thing leaked so badly. And it was just a cesspool. It was filled with algae and goose poop, I'm told. And so it was just a real disaster. They fixed it up. They got it looking nice. Well, they had a little problem with the algae, but they were working on that. And then somebody came through apparently and cut the thing up with razor blades. And today, one person, I think there will be more arrests coming down the line, but one person who was caught allegedly defacing the reflecting pool has been charged in the District of Columbia for a crime that could send him to jail for 10 years if convicted. Here is Judge Jeanine Pirro, who's the D.C. Attorney General, or the D.C. U.S. Attorney, and she is talking about this just a few moments ago at a press conference in Washington, D.C.
And this is not the way of a civilized society. It is anarchy. And
It really, by the way, is anarchy. It really is. These people call themselves anarchists.
our nation has weathered moments of anarchy and chaos in the past, and individuals have made a decision, many of them, to destroy and to damage national monuments, not taking into account the fact that the rest of the nation considers these monuments important and necessary to our history. But this unchecked vandalism and civil disorder turns into criminal behavior, and that's why we're here today. They are an affront to the dignity of our shared history, and we will not allow our sacred monuments to be roped off, defaced, or diminished, or in any way impacted by disgruntled individuals who think that they, and not the rest of the nation, have the right to decide what should happen. These landmarks and monuments belong to all of us, and
Yes,
they
I
must
do.
be protected for generations to come. The president, as you heard from him, has been able to improve and to clean up 50 parks, more than 48 monuments that
Hold on, 50 parks, 48 monuments.
have been repaired, 22 fountains
Wow.
have been returned to service, and these monuments and fountains must be protected, and those who decide that they want to do harm will be held accountable.
I mean, I saw pictures of one of these fountains that had been rehabilitated. It's the one over in front of Union Station. And the reason I know about this fountain is because Union Station is where, for many, many years, I went to lunch every day. When I worked on Capitol Hill or at the Fox Bureau, I would just walk over to Union Station, go to the food court, get some food, and then make my way back to work. And so you pass right by this fountain. Well, I saw a picture of it the other day, and it looked great. It had been power washed. It had been steam cleaned. All of the graffiti was gone. And then they had the pool was working and the water was inviting and it was beautiful. And yeah, this is why we can't have nice things, because the anarchists come and they want to tear up the positive things that have been done.
So, today a grand jury has returned a felony indictment against a defendant, David Hearn, for felony destruction of property, for which he faces 10 years in prison. The indictment is in response to an incident that occurred on June 19th of 2026, in which the defendant Hearn ripped a piece of recently installed sealant on the bottom of the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial. The evidence shows, and we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that Hearn willfully destroyed property at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. This was a deliberate act to damage the reflecting pool at the National Mall that members of the National Park Service actually have worked hard to restore and have witnessed. By Hearn's own admission, on June 19th, he reached down into the pool. Our evidence further shows that the National Park Service employees observed Hearn actually forcefully and violently pulling up and removing the bottom liner with both hands. According to witnesses, Hearn damaged approximately 2 square feet of sealant from the bottom of the pool. A Parks employee actually told Hearn to stop.
Well, that would be exactly what a park employee should do. But listen what the response was.
To stop his behavior and stop what he was doing. Hearn reacted by shouting at that Parks employee, saying that she cared too much about the reflecting pool, and why did she even care, since it wasn't her pool.
Wow.
Now, Mr. Hearn's behavior was characterized by witnesses as belligerent, rude, and disrespectful, according to National Park Service employees that witnessed the event. Now, let me talk a moment about those employees. Many of those employees have come from around the country because they are proud of this nation They are proud of the 250th anniversary that we are about to experience. Many of them have decided to step away from their desks and to go outside and actually work next to the pool to witness what was going on, as opposed to staying in a cool office. These are the witnesses that we're talking about in this case. These are the people who care about this particular monument and what is going on.
And by the way, this is a very historic place. This is right next to the Lincoln Monument. It's right next to the Washington Monument. It is a beautiful thing to see when you're up at the Lincoln Memorial looking down the reflecting pool. Everybody should go see it. And you see the reflection of the Washington Monument off of the water. This is historical. This is a historic place. This is where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his "I've Got a Dream" speech. I mean, come on, this is history. And some guy decides he's gonna take, he's not the only one, there'll be more, but he decided he's gonna rip up the repair work that has been done.
They work long hours and they are tireless in their efforts. And they must be shown respect and not be treated with belligerence and with disrespect by those who seek to damage the very monuments that they are there to protect. And they certainly should not have to witness the damage done right in front of their faces. The United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia remains committed to protecting our national resources, our monuments, and our parks from vandals, and we are especially committed to doing so in advance of our 250th anniversary.
And by the way, they had an assistant chief from the Park Police who was at this press conference, and he says, look, heads up, if you're coming to Washington for the 4th of July, and it's your intention to deface our monuments and our buildings and our reflecting pools, we're going to be there to come down on you like a ton of bricks. Then Jeanine Pirro answered a few questions.
Keying in on that, how do you prove that $1,000?
With an expert.
Is that because
come to the trial.
It has to be drained? Is that because it has to be drained?
We'll hear all that at the trial.
Did he have any tools, or was it just his bare hands?
Right now, we believe it's his bare hands, both hands.
So does that indicate in your belief that it was probably damaged before, or do you believe that he
he damaged it.
Further, but do you believe it had already been damaged before?
He damaged the pool.
Before he touched it.
He damaged this pool.
But there have been, all these videos, obviously.
Well, good. I'm glad you've got that evidence. Come on in the grand jury. You can testify. Next.
I love Judge Jeanine Pirro. She's quite good. And she handles herself well. And she has been a real blessing to that city. Do you know that they have, between Jeanine Pirro and bringing in the National Guard to Washington, D.C., and some of the things they've done, they have reduced crime dramatically. They've cleaned up the city. Donald Trump's only bad move here, I mean, according to them, was that he wants nice things. He wants the nation's capital to sparkle. He wants it to look good, and it should. We ought to have pride in our federal city, in our nation's capital. And so why is it that there are people out there that if you do something that improves the situation, there are always going to be these people who want to tear it down? And by the way, this guy that they are charging and could spend 10 years in jail if he is convicted is a former Olympian, an ex-Olympian athlete. Something to do with kayaks. But there are more. They are looking for other people. I just think it's reprehensible that here, around our nation's 250th birthday, when we ought to be celebrating all the great things about America, that we have to take time out because there's some knuckleheads out there. I'd like to use a lot of other words. But there are some knuckleheads out there who want to tear down anything that we do to make our nation's capital nice. And, you know, these are the same people that show up and they fight the ICE people. These are the same people that are, you know, always stirring up trouble here, hither, thither, and yon. It's a small group of people who go from event to event to event. And so they saw what Trump was trying to do because his name was attached to it. They felt like, well, we have to tear it down. Trump derangement syndrome. That's what was motivating them. Just simply because the president mentioned a couple of times what his Interior Department was doing. His name's attached to it. We must destroy anything that comes from Donald Trump. What a ridiculous idea that is. So look, I hope they lower the boom on these people. I hope that they find others, because there are others who were captured on video that they're trying to identify and track down. This may not be the only person, but believe me, they're going to go after this guy, this ex-Olympian, David Hearn, with everything they got. And, well, they should. So there you have it. You know, look, the city looks pretty good. And it's looking better. The last time I was there, had to go back for a funeral of a friend, and I went back and drove around the city. The National Guard was there, but they weren't a really ugly presence. They weren't an overbearing presence. They were there. And by the way, most of the people I talked to at the time said they liked having the National Guard there. Isn't it a shame that we can't have nice things because of these knuckleheads? Lower the boom, Judge Janine. I'm ready for it, man. I'm telling you. In a moment, we're going to talk about something that Hillary Rodham Clinton, another detractor of all things that have Trump associated with him, she's upset, and she's saying that people in the intelligence community should not cooperate with the person currently leading as the acting director of national intelligence. More on that in a moment. Right now, 22 past the hour.
And a former Franklin soccer coach is headed to prison for 30 years for sexually assaulting children. That story and more coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
There he is. He's my friend and buddy, good old Ken Weaver in the newsroom. How you doing, kiddo?
I'm doing all right, Brother Brian. I'm just ready to get this 3-day weekend underway.
Man, I'm telling you, in between now and the 4th, it's going to be hot. I mean, oh my goodness, it is sweltering outside. I went over to, let the dogs out because they've been sitting under the air conditioning all day, and they sort of like getting out and getting warmed up.
Yes, sir.
But they can't last very long. It's so hot out there.
Yes, sir.
And so be careful. We're talking about a high today of maybe 97. I don't know. I have 95 right now.
Oh, we already hit 98 at the airport.
All right. So there you go. I mean, we have it Friday, tomorrow, 40% chance of rain, 96. Saturday, 94, 40% chance of rain. That's the 4th. So and by the way, when you say a 40% chance, when you actually look at, at hour by hour breakdowns, it's a lot less than 40% chance. It's like in most areas, it's a 20% chance at any given time,
right.
But they mean that over a period of time, there's a 40% chance of rain. So it doesn't mean a 40%, it doesn't mean a washout. It just means isolated showers and you could get wet.
Yeah. And that's kind of what's happening right now, man. They're popping up all over, Middle Tennessee right now, south of I-40. In fact, Murfreesboro, I think Murfreesboro is starting to get a little bit of this. But, of course, the one we're watching right now, the severe thunderstorm there for Williamson and Davidson counties, dropping a lot of rain, and there's a lot of lightning, man. A lot of lightning.
All right. So be weather aware out there. I mean, I think that storm is a relatively, last time I looked, a small storm, but intense.
It's just little isolated storms.
Yeah.
And when they pop up, they have the potential to go severe, which means, 60-mile-per-hour winds. They're saying damaging wind, some hail and lightning, and possible, some quick flash flooding rains are the main risks.
Okay. Well, be weather aware, eye to the sky. You could be in an isolated thunder shower, and they can go pretty ugly pretty quick.
Yes,
so, especially when it's this hot and this humid.
Yes,
I mean to tell you, it is both those things.
Yes.
It really is. All right. By the way, what are you doing for the 4th?
Man, we're just relaxing. We had a very great vacation last week, it was kind of a laborious drive home. So I think we're still trying to recover from it, Brother Brian. It was kind of like that time you were kind enough to let us use your beach house down at 30A. I got a buddy who let us use his beach house over in Surfside, South Carolina. And while we had a blast, man, it wore us out.
That vacationing is hard work. There's no doubt about that. Yeah,
it is.
All right. Well, listen, just try to stay away. By the way, here in Watertown, I mentioned it during the chit-chat with Chad.
Yes, sir.
That we've got the big squirt gun parade here in Watertown. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good way to come and celebrate. I mean, it's a great little all-American parade in an all-American little small town. But the thing that's different is, and not only do you celebrate the 4th of July and have all the traditional things that you might want to have in a 4th of July parade, the people who attend get to squirt with a squirt gun anybody that's in the parade. and I did this a few years back. I was in the parade. I like to be outside the parade now. And so I was in the parade, and literally there were people who would, there are houses on Main Street here in Watertown, and they would pull up their water hose.
Oh, yeah.
and just blast you as you went by. It's a lot of fun. Everybody gets wet. Everybody stays cool, and a good time is had by all. Last year, the Hand family and their sweet family.
Oh, yeah.
All those kids are so amazing, so well-mannered. They came over to the house, and they enjoyed the parade so much they're coming back this year. We're doing little hot dogs out back.
All right.
So for them and some other people visiting. So we've got a big thing going on. But if you got nothing going on, come on out to Watertown and bring a squirt gun. It'll be a good time. And then we have the fireworks later when it gets dark. So,
yes, sir.
3:00 Saturday. Squirt gun parade. Don't miss it. Time for Ken Weaver in the news now at 3:31.
All of Middle Tennessee right now under a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather today. And the severe thunderstorm watch everybody's under lasts until 8 o'clock. And in fact, as you heard Brian and I talk about, we've already got one severe thunderstorm warning we're watching here in Middle Tennessee. It is south central Davidson County, northeastern Williamson County. This is until 4 o'clock. You could see some winds up to 60 miles per hour. You could see some hail. There is a lot of lightning in this storm, and it's moving very slowly to the northwest at about 10 miles per hour. We don't expect any tornadoes in these heat-fueled pop-up severe thunderstorms we're seeing, but we'll keep an eye on it for you and we'll let you know just in case. A former Franklin soccer coach is headed to prison for 30 years for sexually assaulting children. Here's Channel 4's Lydia Fielder.
Camilo Campos Hurtado was sentenced today. The 66-year-old convicted of sexually exploiting children, along with receiving child sexual abuse material. Investigators say he gave kids drugs and alcohol before sexually abusing them and then recording it. We're told the victims were between 9 and 17 years old. He was also convicted for being in the country illegally.
Now, we've been talking about the traffic in Middle Tennessee all day today. A lot of folks heading out early for their Independence Day destination. Here's Matt Rivers.
AAA saying more than 60 million people will be driving somewhere over this holiday, with today being the busiest day for rental car pickups, according to Hertz. Best time to drive, according to transportation firm INRIX, before 12 p.m. or after 6 p.m. if you're worried about traffic.
And here in Middle Tennessee, in fact, all of Tennessee, no added lane closures unless it's an emergency. Long-term lane closures remain in place. And, of course, speed zones still going to be enforced. We've got a traffic update coming up. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, northbound and southbound 65, still the major slow points right there at Goodlettsville, but it's no picnic if you are northbound 65 trying to get to the South Loop. The South Loop, sometime both directions like a parking lot, so is the northbound North Loop, eastbound 440 over to 24, and then eastbound 24 from 440. Mount Juliet Road is backing up either side of I-40. I'm Ken Weaver.
39 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on this second day of July. It's sweltering outside, temperatures in the upper 90s, and we have some thunder showers. Very isolated. If you're getting wet, if you are driving, chances are in a few moments you'll be out of it. But in the meantime, it is really, really hot, and there are some pretty severe thunderstorms. They're down. Let me look at my radar real quick just to give you the latest information on that. They are down near Smyrna. They're south of between Murfreesboro and Smyrna, Nolensville, Franklin, all the way down toward Eagleville. They're all getting rain right now. If you're not in that area, chances are you're not getting wet, you're not getting rained on, but be aware because these storms do have the potential to be a little rough, but they are indeed isolated. So to the swamp we go. The President of the United States yesterday said something interesting. He's got a guy named Bill Pulte, who is the acting director of national intelligence. What is the DNI? The DNI is at the very top of the food chain. Tulsi Gabbard was the last DNI. She has left the Trump administration. I don't know whether or not, I really honestly don't know whether she left on her own volition because she does have a health concern in her family, or whether it was, your time is up here, bye-bye. But one way or the other, Bill Pulte is the acting director of national intelligence. And Trump was asked, we've got a declassification thing going on. Is he going to be able to declassify stuff as acting director of national intelligence? Here's how that went.
We've got DNI Pulte over there as the new director. We also know you have the task force set up on declassification, maybe talking about international, maybe looking at some declassification. Are you able to give us an update on that?
Declassify almost everything. And by the way, we have Jay Clayton who's going in. Bill Pulte's a very talented guy, but he's just there temporarily until Jay Clayton. And Jay Clayton is going through the process. And Jay Clayton, highly respected, and so is Bill Pulte. But Bill is there just for a fairly short period of time. But while he's there, I said, you can declassify whatever you want.
Listen to that. He said, while you're there, declassify anything you want. I love this instinct on the part of President Trump. We are finally getting a look at the secrets that have been held from us all these years. It's like government forgot that the people are literally in charge and you work for us if you're an elected official. If you're in the government, we are your boss. I mean, we lose track of that. We don't pay attention to that very much anymore, but that's true. And so what he said was, let's release everything. I got nothing to worry about. I'm all in favor of transparency and unveiling the secrets that have been held by this country for so many years.
You think we're going to get some soon, or maybe 2020?
I told him you could do it as fast. You got to ask him. All right. But I think, Mr. Frederick, I think that Bill will declassify. I told him you can declassify whatever you want. So Bill's there just for maybe a month or 2 months or something. And Jay is going through the process. He's got a hearing in 2 weeks. Highly respected man, Jay Clayton.
Well, so we'll get a DNI that's going through the process. It requires confirmation by the United States Senate. So, that'll be interesting how that goes. But in the meantime, Hillary Rodham Clinton, oh my goodness, she rears her ugly head once again, and she is actually, in an interview, suggesting to people in the intelligence community, people who work for you and me, to protect the secrets and to gather secrets. She's telling him, don't cooperate with this guy. I'm not kidding.
You should definitely be worried about everything. This is a naked partisan takeover of the Director of National Intelligence, which was formed following 9/11 to better try to coordinate the various intelligence agencies, the CIA, the NSA. There's like 17 of them. Because we missed a lot of signals that we should have paid attention to leading up to 9/11.
Now, she's right about all that. She's absolutely correct. That's how the DNI came to be. We didn't used to have a DNI. But we found out during 9/11 that things got missed and that all the intelligence agencies had silos and nobody was looking at all of the information. So they came up with the idea of a director of national intelligence. So that's where it all came from. But here's where she starts to go, I think, sideways.
You know, the CIA, the NSA, there's like 17 of them. Because we missed a lot of signals that we should have paid attention to leading up to 9/11. And it was thought in this legislation that created the Department of Homeland Security and created the DNI, that this would be a better coordinating mechanism. DNI has access to everything. I hope there are career and even political appointees in various of the agencies that are slow walking or refusing to share information with Pulte.
What? Let's go back over that.
I hope there are career and even political appointees in various of the agencies that are slow walking or refusing to share information with Pulte.
She is literally suggesting that intelligence officials who are working for you and me, who are there to gather secrets on what's going on to protect this country, maybe you don't want to share everything you know with the boss. That's insane. That's just insane. It's almost treasonous.
So the bottom line to me is he's very dangerous. He's a loose cannon. But I am sure they are cheering it in Beijing and Tehran and Moscow and other places because it's a shambles.
You know what? That is, she's basically asking people who work in the intelligence community to not do their jobs. She's basically saying, a work stoppage. And if there are people within the intelligence community, I know some people that worked in the intelligence community. I had some in my family at one point, and I'm telling you, they're very patriotic people. They truly are very patriotic people in my experience. But if there are people within the intelligence community who've been there, we all know about the kinds of people that got buried into the intelligence community during, the Obama years and then the Biden years, and they're still there. And if there are people who decide on their own volition that I'm not going to share this important secret information that I have with the boss, the man in charge of all national security, we are a less safe country. Hillary Clinton wants us to be less safe than we are. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. And that nobody calls her on this stuff. How in the world can you be in favor of withholding information that could protect the homeland? I mean, this is what Trump derangement syndrome does to some people. Can you imagine if somebody had said that back when she was the Secretary of State or when Bill Clinton was the president? Hey, by the way, or even back in the day of H.W. Bush or George W. Bush, you can't imagine them doing that. It's Trump. They hate Trump. They can't stand Trump. Anything that comes out of their mouth, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, anything that comes out of his mouth, they are automatically 100% going to be against. But in this particular case, Hillary Clinton, a woman who served in government and First Lady and Secretary of State, is urging people who work in the current administration in the intelligence community not to tell the DNI, and by extension, I would guess the President of the United States. If you have some real good, juicy secret, why don't you keep it from them? That's dereliction of duty. And if you find somebody who does that, then they should be fired without a moment's notice. Gone. Bye-bye. And in the meantime, does Hillary Clinton really believe this is the right thing to do? Apparently she does. She believes that we should keep things from the DNI. She believes we should, the intelligence community should keep secrets of our secrets from the people who are authorized to look at them. I mean, if indeed she's right, and she is right about the part where this was all set up post 9/11 to make sure that nothing got missed, she is suggesting that you keep stuff and things could get missed and things could happen as a result of that are not good for this country. She's the worst. She's just the worst thing to ever come down the pike. She's bitter. She's nasty. She just is abysmal. And Democrats, they're actually talking. Hey, let's run Hillary in 28. I say, well, we've seen that one before. Go ahead, that'd be fine. She's the worst retail politician ever on the planet. But, she has this sort of nasty edge to her. How in the world Bill Clinton stayed married to her all those years, I have no idea. Because she is a vehemently nasty woman. Truly. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy.
people hitting the roads for the July 4th holiday, and about 59 million of them are right here in Nashville, it seems like. Details at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, that's right, because we throw a good party here in Nashville. That's what we do. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy, 3:55 on a sweltering July 2nd. Temperatures up near 100 degrees. Not quite there, but get really hot. We do have some thunderstorms in the area, so very isolated, but intense. So be aware. Be aware. I had a great time watching the United States soccer team defeat the team from Bosnia-Herzegovina, or Herzegovina, I believe is the way you say it, last night. They beat both the team on the field and the referees. Did you see this?
Yep.
It just absolutely hacked me off. I know a little about soccer. I mean, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but, I'm a soccer dad. I went to a lot of soccer games. I became interested in the game because my daughter played on a couple different leagues, and she was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And so I started to watch soccer, and it's, it's not like it's not like football for me, but I enjoy it.
Right.
And I know a red card foul when I see one.
Right.
And that wasn't one. And it wasn't just me. And so what happened is you got this guy, Folarin Balogun, I believe is the way you say his name, who plays for the U.S., who got a red card. He was ejected from the game, and they had to play the rest of that game with only, 10 players?
Yep, 10 players.
Well, that puts it, but they still won 2-1.
Right.
And they move on to the next game. But this guy, because he got a red card, has to sit out a game.
Yeah, he's got to sit out against Belgium, which beat the USA team earlier this year.
Right.
And
this is one of their top scorers.
Yeah, this is one of their top scorers. And what's so frustrating about this is they decided to red card after watching the replay in slow motion.
Right.
Everything in slow motion looks intentional.
Well, the thing is, I looked at that while they were playing it back. And it was just aggressive play.
It was exactly.
They were playing the ball. His eyes were on the ball, not on stomping this guy's foot.
Right.
Which it was basically what they suggested he did it on purpose.
Right.
I disagree. This is from ABC News. Longtime referee Andy Davies, who has operated using some of the stuff in Premier League, told ESPN. Balogun can feel unfortunate to be red carded in this situation, as in my opinion, this was not a red card offense.
No.
Everybody knows if you watch the NFL, every once in a while a referee will really booger a call.
Right.
This was a boogered call. This was a bad call.
I believe you. They were both going for the ball. Both players' eyes were on the ball. And
Davey said that it looked like it was purely accidental.
Yep.
And the unfortunate result of two players challenging for possession of the ball in a normal football movement.
Yep. But no, they red carded him, man.
Man, and clearly there are. I think that some. I think.
And you can't protest it. You can't appeal either.
No, there is no appeal. There's nothing you can do. You just have to deal with it. And I have a feeling that, this was a crooked, dirty ref, I think. I think that nothing that they like more. Because, anybody who looked at that could come away saying they were playing the ball, man.
Yeah.
They were playing for the ball. It was aggressive play, but it was, both of them going at it tooth and tongue, which is what you want in a World Cup final game. That's what you want. You want them out there going for it. And so this was just wrong, and this was a way, I think, to hurt the United States. And quite frankly, I don't feel like it was just a bad call. I think it was an egregious call made on purpose to hurt the United States' chances in the World Cup. That's what I think. Well, so take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, we got to take on Belgium, and we got to take on Belgium without one of our best players.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough game, but maybe we'll get a decent break on the refs, and they'll be honest refs instead of this jerk. I'm telling you, it was a horrible call. It really, really was. Hey, listen, it's Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show on this sweaty July 2nd. Back with more after Ken Weaver with the news, 4 o'clock.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning now until 4:15 for southeastern Davidson County, northwestern Rutherford County, and northeastern Williamson County. This thing is nearly stationary, but radar is showing quite a bit of lightning in it, a lot of heavy rain, up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, which is enough to do some damage. It is about 13 miles east of Franklin, and again, it's just kind of sitting there. Now, all of Middle Tennessee is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 8 o'clock tonight, and we've got other storms that have popped up in Middle Tennessee, but this is the only one that is at severe levels, and we'll keep an eye on it for you moving forward. AAA predicting more than 60 million people hitting the roads for the July 4th holiday, with today being the busiest day. That has certainly been the case during traffic today in Nashville starting at noon today, man. I mean, big backups, and they continue. Another 12 million are flying. Clint Henderson is a managing editor at The Points Guy. He says for those driving, they can look for car rental rewards or deals with their credit cards, or even deals on filling up with the way gas prices have been.
There's a lot of promotions right now for fuel rewards programs. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get 50 cents off a gallon of gas, up to $50. So check that out too. That's going on right now through this weekend.
Yeah, average per gallon right now, Middle Tennessee's at $3.44, according to Gas Buddy. Well, people plan to protest new data centers in Nashville today. Channel 4's Holly Thompson says they started at 3:30 this afternoon at the Market Street Enterprises on 11th Avenue South.
Right now, there are proposals to bring two of these centers to Music City. Now, one would be feet from the Nashville Zoo. The other would go on the campus of Fisk University in North Nashville. For context here, we know Metro Council will meet next Tuesday to discuss legislation that would restrict the construction of data centers in Davidson County. There would also be a public comment period during that meeting where you can share your input. Organizers say they also plan to rally at that meeting before heading inside for the hearing.
New jobs numbers out today show a lower than expected outcome for last month and lower revisions for the months of April and May. But University of Michigan professor Justin Wolfers telling ABC News nothing to panic over.
After the previous jobs report, it was a yabba dabba doo moment. It looked like the economy was sailing forward and was downright strong. This has caused us not just this month's number, but a couple of the revisions to the previous months. It has brought us back down to this is healthy, but it's not amazing.
Yeah, according to the Labor Department, 57,000 jobs were added in June, below the expectation of 100 to 15,000. 74,000 fewer jobs were added for April and May. And real quick, severe thunderstorm warning has now been extended for southwestern Rutherford County and Williamson County until 4:45. It is located 9 miles south of Nolensville, 12 miles southeast of Franklin, and again, it's just sitting there. That's the latest news. We got traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, again, a severe thunderstorm warning right now going to be affecting drivers in southwestern Rutherford County, also Williamson County until 4:45. This thing is 9 miles south of Nolensville, 12 miles southeast of Franklin, and it is not really moving. You can see 60-mile-per-hour winds, a lot of lightning, some hail, and some very heavy rain. In addition to that, we've got bumper-to-bumper traffic north and southbound 65 there at Goodlettsville, eastbound 24 all the way down to Antioch from downtown, and eastbound 440 over to 24 from 65, eastbound South Loop and northbound North Loop, and both directions 40 between downtown and the 440 split. I'm Ken Weaver.
It's 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am not, and nor will I ever be, Matt Murphy. There's only one Matt Murphy. But I am Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, filling in for Matt as he takes an extended 4th of July holiday. Going to be out there riding his cycle and doing all kinds of Matt Murphy stuff. And I'll be here all the way till 7 o'clock tonight. Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, back in the saddle again. And we got all kinds of stuff to talk about. You know, I understand it happened a couple of days ago, but please forgive me because, I don't get on the air every day. And when big things happen, I feel like I really have things I want to say about this. I want to get involved in this conversation. And so it will be with the Supreme Court decisions the other day. There was a good one. There was one that we should be very happy about, and I'll get this out of the way very quickly. And it has to do with transgender sports bans. The Supreme Court decision to uphold 2 state bans on transgender athletes competing in girls and women's athletics were met with celebration from the president. 6-3, that is, all the conservatives agreed on this. The 3 liberals on the court did not. That if a state wants to ban biological men playing in women's sports, they are free to do so. And if a state decides that they want men to play in women's sports, they can decide. They're saying basically it's a state's issue. And so I looked it up. 29 states in America do not allow biological men to play in women's sports, which is the right position, I think. But there are some liberal states in the country, very predictably on the 2 coasts, where they allow this. They and the Supreme Court has said, go your own way, states. Do what you think you need to do. I wish they had been a little more forceful about it. But one way or the other, it was a good ruling for our side on the issue of transgenders in sports. I like it. I don't think of somebody who ranks in the lower third of all male athletes should go into a women's game and dominate, and they do. And you can't help, I'm sorry, there are differences between men and women, and the Supreme Court has acknowledged that in a 6-3 ruling. But as good a ruling as that was for our side, the ruling on birthright citizenship is a complete and utter disaster. There is no doubt about it. Justice has handed down major rulings. Let's see. Trying to get to it. Here we go. The court 6-3. The court 6-3 ruling striking down Trump's day one executive order ending birthright citizenship was a familiar mathematical split. but the majority cut across ideological lines, with 3 of the court's conservative justices siding with 3 liberal justices to rule against the president. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Amy Coney Barrett aligned with their liberal colleagues to find that the president's order ran afoul of the 14th Amendment's guarantee of automatic citizenship to children born on U.S. soil, barring few exceptions. This is a absolutely horrible decision. The reasoning rested heavily on historical interpretation, tracing the origin of the citizenship clause from English common law through the aftermath of the Civil War into the late 19th century. Here's what Roberts wrote. Citizenship then and now was the right to have rights to freely participate in our political community. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land, and we keep that promise today. Justice Kavanaugh wasn't ready to go that far. He disagreed that Trump's order should be blocked on constitutional grounds, instead arguing that it should not stand because it went beyond what was authorized by a 1940 federal law. In other words, he said laws have been passed that codified this, and if you wanted to go at it, you should go at it by going after those laws, not the 14th Amendment argument. And he said if you had gone after it this way, then Congress could then remedy the problem. Now, the only way you remedy this problem is through a constitutional amendment, and you know those are incredibly difficult to get across the goal line. So this is it, and this is a bad call. This is a horrible, horrible call. Here we go. The Washington Post. The Washington Post. Those liberal goodies over at the loonies over at the Washington Post agree that the Supreme Court overreached by trying to prevent voters and politicians from shaping rules about who gets to share in American citizenship. The justices decided more than they had to, writes the Washington Post. Donald Trump's executive order curbing birthright citizenship by the very pro-migration editorial board of the Jeff Bezos newspaper. The case could have been decided on narrower grounds, including by citing Congress's 1952 citizenship law, the paper noted. The court split was a surprise to the very liberal New York Times. This should have been a 9-0 decision. In a second New York Times article, other law professors griped about the close result. I'm telling you, the bottom line here, it was a bad interpretation of the 14th Amendment. And I've got to tell you, I think there's going to come a time and a place where we really regret that. The only thing I can think of is that maybe it seems hard to imagine this, but maybe the High Court in time, maybe with different characters on the High Court, and that could happen. I'll get into that in a minute. Maybe they will come back, find that case, and overturn this. But the Chief Justice of the United States wrote the opinion, and it is wrong-headed. Amy Coney Barrett crossed over to vote in favor with the judge, with the Chief Justice, and she was, I think, horribly wrong in her decision. There's more. Hang on. Now, how will they solve this? Is there anything that Congress can do in this particular case? Maybe. Senator Moreno, a Republican from Ohio, is pushing Congress to clarify birthright citizenship rules by using Harry Reid's own 1993 legislation. Harry Reid, Democrat majority leader of the Senate back in the day, had a bill that he wanted to get called the 1993 Immigration Stabilization Act. And Bernie Moreno, R of Ohio, wants that passed. Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno announced plans to revive a decades-old proposal from former Democrat Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid after Republicans' push to end birthright citizenship came to a screeching halt at the hands of the Supreme Court. When I get back from recess on July 13th, I'm going to introduce the identical bill, Moreno said, mere hours after the High Court. What it's going to do is highlight two things. The Democrats of today are nothing like the Democrats of 1993. Boy, that is right, isn't it? Harry Reid was he was a liberal Democrat in the day. But liberal Democrats back in 1993, they look like rock-ribbed conservatives compared to the Democrats of today. What is going on, what it is going to do is highlight two things. The Democrats are nothing like the Democrats of 1993, and if they choose to reject a bill sponsored by their own majority leader that they named an airport after in Las Vegas, then I think my Republican colleagues have no choice. We have to recognize that these Democrats want to systematically destroy our country. Moreno's remarks referenced the Immigration Stabilization Act of 1993, a proposal put forth by Reid, which would have revoked birthright citizenship, among other things. According to PolitiFact, Section 1001 of Reid's bill, entitled Basis of Citizenship Clarified, said that children born to illegal immigrants on U.S. soil should not become U.S. citizens. The majority leader, the Democrat majority leader of the Senate back in 1993, Harry Reid, believed that. Democrats today do not. Democrats today do not. Oh, there's more. There's more. Hang on a minute. I got so much stuff on this. We got Andy Ogles out there saying what we ought to do is pass a law that says that if you are pregnant, then you can't come into this country. If you are, third trimester maybe, you can't come to this country. And get birthright. This is the way it works. You get. They come to this country in the third trimester or just before they're ready to deliver, and they have their kids born in a U.S. hospital, and then they go back home. But their kid has U.S. citizenship. He can then come back. He can then be the anchor baby that brings the parents back. There's all kinds of things that can happen, but I got to tell you, I hope that they will do something, but as it stands right now, this was a horrible, horrible, horrible decision on behalf of the Supreme Court. By the way, NBC, when they got ready to do the discussion about the transgender athletes decision, NBC News anchor Craig Melvin issued an on-air warning before reporting the Supreme Court's use of the term biological male and biological female for fear that some of their audience might get triggered. Oh, my gosh. Insane. That's the country that we're in right now. Bad decision, but one good decision by the Supreme Court, bad decisions by the Supreme Court. Overall, I think Trump came out about 50-50 on the major cases that he was caring about. But birthright citizen, it is no doubt a real blow to Trump and his efforts to try to return people to their country and to fight this idea of anchor babies and babies born here are automatically citizens of the United States. I wish we could have cleared up that matter. But for now, that is the law of the land as written by the Supreme Court. And there are a lot of people not very happy right now with the Chief Justice and Amy Coney Barrett on this particular matter. It is 20 minutes at a moment. There was another thing that happened as these decisions were coming down from the high court. A correspondent in Washington, she's sort of respected, not everywhere, but in Washington, she sort of really blew it when she reported that Samuel Alito had tendered his resignation from the high court. I have some thoughts about that, and we'll get to that in a moment. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
More than 250,000 people expected downtown for Saturday's big 4th of July celebration. We'll give you a preview of that. Also, a 4th of July surprise for one Kentucky World War II veteran coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. 25 past the hour. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on this very sweltering July 2nd day as we head into the celebration of our 250th anniversary. Was talking about the birthright citizen decision that came down from the Supreme Court. Wrong-headed decision every step of the way. I hope that they can find some way around it. It was just egregiously bad. You know, it was as bad as that red card that... I mean, that was egregious too, wasn't it? In the midst of all of these big decisions, last day of the High Court coming down, Nina Totenberg from NPR reported and put a story out that Samuel Alito was going to retire. Turns out there's just a problem with that. Samuel Alito has not made any announcement that he was going to retire. They took down the story, but I mean, I'm telling you, as big stories go in Washington, there's no bigger story than announcing that a Supreme Court justice is going to retire. Why? Well, because then the battle lines are drawn. We're heading into a midterm election, only a few months left before we get there. Can you push through another nominee? Is there going to be a big fight? What happens if the Democrats take over the Senate? I mean, so it becomes a huge, huge story. And the Democrats, they don't have the House and they don't have the Senate and they don't have the Supreme Court, but they'd like to start taking back some of these seats, and they would like to have nominees that they would like rather than the ones that Trump would choose. So it's a huge story. Big, big, big ass story. She got it wrong. And she had to admit that it was all her mistake.
This is my fault and only my fault. It's not NPR's fault. It's we do pre-write stories about people for when they retire, when they die, whatever, so we can...
Well, those are called obits. And yes, I actually worked on many of them when I worked at Fox. They would say, hey, you got a down day here, go track this obit. We'll put it in the file. And it's put on a shelf. And then, these are people who are currently alive, but you want to be ready if they should pass away. And so they're put on a shelf, and for somebody to pull the tape off and play one of those stories, they had to go to the highest levels of Fox News to get permission to pull that obit off the shelf. In other words, they didn't want to run the obit before they were absolutely certain the person had died. That's all. In this particular case, they do write, but I mean, it's very unusual to write a story about somebody resigning from the High Court when you don't, where did you get that information? And you had it ready to go. What, were you given bad information? Because apparently it's not right.
Quickly, and they take a lot of time to prepare. In this case, this was just my fault. I left the courtroom a little early before they were finished, but after they finished announcing opinions. And when I realized that nobody was following me, I said to somebody, what's going on in there? And I misunderstood the answer and thought that somebody had suggested that Justice Alito was retiring.
So she heard a hallway comment and she calls it in and they release the story. And then she found out, hey, I have this exclusive story. I would assume everybody's going to be jumping on it. But nobody was jumping on it because it was wrong.
It was completely wrong. I wasn't in the courtroom. This is all on me. This is not on the network. And I regret. It's the worst mistake I've ever made in my more than 50 years as a journalist.
Well, that's open for interpretation. Because I read a story that said that in 1972, she was fired from a job for plagiarism. Now, that was a long time. She's 84 years old. She's really up there, and she's been covering the High Court, for long time. But, she's not without blemish as a reporter.
I deeply regret it, and I've written an apology to Justice Alito.
I appreciate you coming out, and I think people appreciate the transparency of all of that and an unfortunate mistake that came about. Is there any indicators that anyone, Alito or others, might be stepping down because we know the midterms were coming up? Did the timing have to do with it at all?
Well, I mean, he's asking, is it possible that we will still see an Alito retirement? I think that is a possibility.
No, but we're used to justices retiring on the last day of the term or the day after, and I'm pretty sure now that nobody's retiring, least of all Justice Alito.
Well, that's interesting. She now says she doesn't think anybody is retiring, which is very interesting. I mean, if you're going to have a retirement, it would be probably Alito or Clarence Thomas. Oh, I hope they don't. I hope he doesn't. I hope that they find a way to keep Clarence Thomas propped up in that chair with a heart-lung machine if necessary. I hope that he never steps down from the high court. But one way or the other, the thing is, it's not. It could be that there would be an announcement, but it hasn't been made yet. If it's going to be made, I would recommend to you that it probably would happen tomorrow, 5:00 on a Friday before a big holiday weekend. But so far it hasn't happened, and Nina Totenberg was wrong, very, very wrong. And, it's time for Nina to take a nice break, Nina. Go ahead and retire. At 84, please. It is 31 minutes past the hour. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
Severe thunderstorm warning now for southwestern Rutherford County and Williamson County until 4:45. You can see 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and penny-size hail with this storm. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. More than 250,000 people expected downtown for Saturday's big 4th of July celebration. But if you're staying home to do your own thing, Channel 4's Braden Ross tells us.
Vanderbilt Burn Center Director Dr. Ann Wagner says those DIY displays keep their staff busy all weekend.
I often get asked, what is a safe way to do fireworks? The honest answer is going to a show like we talked about, or not having them at all.
Last year, more than 13,000 people were injured by fireworks in the U.S., many of them children.
We get a lot of injuries related to people leaning over to see why that firework didn't go off.
And she says it's not just fireworks that cause problems.
The things as a burn doc we would love to see go away are sparklers. Those things get up to 2,000 degrees and literally can melt metal.
Unauthorized use of fireworks is punishable as a misdemeanor and can result in a fine of up to $50 per offense in Davidson County. Now, if you're reporting illegal fireworks in Nashville, complaints can be made through Hub Nashville 311 or the appropriate non-emergency public safety channels. Authorities don't want you clogging up 911 for that. A 4th of July surprise for one Kentucky World War II veteran more than 80 years in the making. ABC's Hannah Battah.
Kentucky veteran Glenn Fisher waited for the recognition he earned on a battlefield in Germany. Fisher landed on a Utah beach in 1944. Waiting to cross the Rhine River, his unit came under fire.
The Germans continue to fire these huge German 88 artillery guns, and that's where Glenn was wounded.
A wound like that should have meant a Purple Heart, but a recording error and a 1973 fire that destroyed millions of military records. So Jeff Thoke, his longtime friend, spent years digging, uncovering the proof they needed. A medal earned in 1945, finally received in 2026.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Dealing with the rain, still got that severe thunderstorm warning for southwestern Rutherford County and Williamson County until 4:45. Otherwise, it is bumper to bumper eastbound 24 from a 440, eastbound 440 over to 24. And then it is really backing up going northbound on 65 to Goodlettsville. Not bad now, southbound 65 there between Millersville and downtown. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 38 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, filling in for Matt Murphy on this sweltering day, July 2nd. Temperatures in the upper 90s. And we have Ken Weaver, are you there?
I'm here, Brother Brian.
I want to talk about these storms because I'm watching on radar. These storms are not going anywhere.
No, they're pretty much stationary when they pop up. They're slowly creeping to the northwest. In fact, we've got a brand new severe thunderstorm warning just popped up for Montgomery County, Cheatham County, and Robertson County until 5:15. Looks like this one for Rutherford County and Williamson County is probably going to be allowed to expire here at 4:45. But yeah, it's just they're just pop-up showers and thunderstorms, and the environment, or rather the atmosphere, is ripe for them to go severe. The sun is fueling it. The sun is fueling it.
Yeah, these are it's just hot and humid and steamy, and yes, in some areas there's rain, and in some areas there's absolutely no rain.
Right.
It's very spotty. I'm looking at storms to the west of Smyrna and Murfreesboro. I'm looking at storms right now in the Fairview area, a little north, Pleasant View, Clarksville. I mean, a lot of places over in Hohenwald. They got some storms over there just south of Hohenwald. They're isolated, but that's just the environment is ripe for these kind of storms to dump a lot of water because there's a lot of humidity in them.
Yeah, and there's some lightning in them too. When they do pop up, there is quite a bit of lightning in them, and you can't rule out hail.
You know, I was just watching the during the commercial break. I have a monitor here, and I was watching the folks on Fox on the 5.
Yeah.
and they're at that great American state fair, and it's 100 degrees there. I remember more than a few days where I had to go out and do a day full of live shots, but they didn't let me wear a nice, cool knit shirt.
No. You were in a jacket and tie.
I was in a jacket and tie, and that was the standard back in the day. Oh, how the standards have slipped! But I tell you, I hated those days. I'm watching Greg Gutfeld has a little tiny fan that plugs into a USB port. Apparently, somebody told him to turn it off because it started out it was on, but I have a feeling you could hear it on the microphone, so he had to turn it off. But that's miserable. That's really miserable.
You know there is some high volume complaining going on when that mic is off.
Yes, that's true. I tell you, I grew up in West Texas, and it can 105, 106, 107, pretty common during the summer.
Right.
And I was out playing in it, and running through the water hose and doing that kind of stuff, having a good time. And you got used to it, but I got to tell you, as you get older, they just zaps you so bad.
Oh, yes.
But I love air conditioning. When I first, when I was just like 6 or 7 years old, we didn't have refrigerated air or central air. We had what was known as a swamp box. You know what a swamp box is?
Yeah, we called them swamp coolers in Albuquerque.
Yeah, swamp boxes, and it's a big box unit that would go into a window, and it had water that flowed down the sides of it through straw mats, and then they had a fan inside that would blow and suck air through those straw mats and through the water to cool it.
Right.
Well, it worked when it worked. I remember my dad said, son, go out there and water down the swamp cooler, would you? And so it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was really beating down on it. It wasn't doing any good at all. And I had to go out and take the hose and water down and cool off the swamp box so it would get cool enough on the inside. And we slept under that stuff. But look, I love my air conditioning. I come from Texas. In the South, we love our air conditioning. All the people coming over from Europe for the World Cup, they all remark, man, we love your air conditioning. We need air conditioning like this in our country. They don't have it.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of what we have, I'm learning from these folks over here for the World Cup.
I think that air conditioning may be one of the greatest inventions of all time.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't have the big blow up of population in the South, I think, were it not for air conditioning when it came along. And we love our air conditioning. You know who doesn't? That communist, Zoran Mamdani, doesn't want you to have air conditioning. Have you heard this, Ken Weaver? Have you heard this?
I haven't heard it, but I believe it.
This is what happens when you let the communists get in charge. The first thing they come for is your air conditioning. Mayor Zoran Mamdani was roasted online for urging New Yorkers to set their air conditioners to a balmy, this is communism. 78 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, they keep electing them.
Yeah.
They keep electing
degrees,
them.
Yeah, well, 78 degrees, that's not even air conditioning.
No. Might as well just open the windows.
Yeah. I mean, what good is that?
And when that's what they want you to do.
You may see behind me that little white box if you're watching on Super Talk TV. That little white box back there?
Yes, sir.
That's my air conditioning here in the studio. It's set to 67 degrees, baby. It's not 67 here because it's hot. I'm telling you. The studio is getting blistered on the outside, and it's only I think it's probably about 72 in here. Right?
You probably won't get down to 67 until that sun goes down now.
No, I don't think so. Mamdani roasted for telling New Yorkers to set their ACs to 78. New York, it's hot out there and the power grid is working overtime to keep us cool. Set your AC to 78 degrees. Turn off lights and electronics you're not using and unplug what you can. Many balked at the temperature recommendation. As I would have told him to stick it where the sun don't shine, because I'm going to have air conditioning as long as the electricity works. 78 degrees. Welcome to communism, people. Hope you enjoy, wrote Barstool's founder Dave Portnoy, who recently said he'd consider running against Mondami for mayor. As a New Yorker, one guy wrote, I'll be setting my AC to 62 degrees for the foreseeable future as a direct retaliation to your authority. Several questioned how they were expected to suffer in their nearly 80-degree homes while Times Square is illuminated 24/7. Yeah, turn off the signs at Times Square, Mayor. You have some control over that. If you really care about it, turn off all the lights on Times Square. Our city is doing its part too, Mondami says, maintaining 78-degree rule in our buildings. You work for the city. We have fights in workplaces all over the country over what the thermostat is set at. Some people want it set at 72. Some people want it at 69. Some people want it at 75. There are women, I don't know why it's always women, who are always cold, no matter what the air conditioning is set at. We have fights. Can you imagine if you worked in a building in New York City and they told, and the temperature was set at 78? Could you even get any work done? I don't know. I don't think I could. I really don't. However, if you want to save a little money on your air conditioning, because it really runs up your electric bill, here is the sweet spot. You ready? Leave it at about 72 when you're in the house. And if you have to leave more than just a few minutes, leave the house for just more than a few minutes. Just run it down to the corner back. Don't worry about it. But if you're going to be gone for a little while, set it at 78. And then, then when you come back home, you can turn it back down. That is if you don't have animals or something like that. Some people say you should just turn off your air conditioning while you're gone. But that ends up actually not working out because it takes a lot of electricity to get the house cool again. And so you don't really gain anything. The thing runs, full blast for a long time. So you don't really save any on your electricity. But if you bump it up a few degrees as you leave the house and you come back in and you bump it back down and you keep it at about 72, I like it a little cooler than that, but 72 is not horrible. You can live through 72. That's a good way to do it. And I'm worried, quite frankly, I really am worried about what's going to happen with all of these data centers that are going in, because they use a lot of electricity. Now, as I understand it, for example, the one that they're trying to build over near the zoo, they have what they call turbine generators, and they turn them on when they need to. When, for example, we get in a brownout situation. So I was really worried about, if you have a data center and then you start to get into a brownout situation, what do? Do you have a situation where the data center has to go offline? No, they just turn on their turbines. That's what they do. But I do worry about it, and they say that there are many places where they're really worried about brownouts this year because we have so much more demand on our data centers. These data centers suck up so much electricity, and, by the way, a lot of water to cool the data centers. So the question is, okay, now if you get into a drought situation, do you have to shut down the data center because they don't have enough water to cool it so the rest of us can have water, or do they get their water? What are the rules here? I think we need to really look at these data centers quite closely. But here's the thing I want to leave you with. If you elect communists, if that's your desire, if you feel like, well, what we need in this country is a good solid dose of socialism and communism, just understand that the first thing they're going to come for is our beloved air conditioning. Please don't let that happen. Protect your air conditioning. Don't vote for communists. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for the vacationing Matt Murphy.
Severe thunderstorm warning for Montgomery County, northeastern Stewart County, northwestern Cheatham County, northwest of Nashville. This is going to be until 5:30. A lot of lightning in it. It's 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and penny-size hail cannot be ruled out. Today is the busiest travel day of the holiday weekend. We've got that for you, and what you should expect, and maybe a tip if you plan to do your own fireworks show this weekend. That's coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
56 past the hour. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show. Sweltering outside. Listen, a lot of people are wondering. I mean, it's the burning issue of our day, is it not? When is Tay-Tay going to get married? When is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, when are they going to tie the knot? Well, it's looking like it's going to be this weekend in New York City, and that they've rented out, unbelievably, Madison Square Garden. So here's what we know. Associated Press has actually gotten a copy of the application for a special event at MSG, Madison Square Garden, right there in the center of Midtown Manhattan. It's slated to begin at 5 p.m. on Friday, that's tomorrow, at New York's Madison Square Garden. Could last until 4 a.m. on the 4th of July. Friday, 5 p.m. till 4 a.m. the morning of 4th of July, according to a copy of a city permit obtained by the Associated Press. Approved Wednesday night by the New York City's permitting office, according to a spokesperson for Mayor Zoran Mamdani. Multiple people familiar with the plans have confirmed to the AP that the application is tied to the wedding between the superstar singer and the football player. People who spoke to the AP on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly. This is like some kind of national security event. Permit shows 100 guests will begin arriving at Madison Square Garden at 6 p.m. tonight for a pre-party celebration. Call it a rehearsal dinner if you want. A full street closure will then go into effect near Manhattan Arena, the Manhattan Arena, overnight as crews erect multiple entrances and drive-through tents, according to the permit. You won't be able to see people coming and going because they'll drive into a tent before they get out of their cars. Main event begins 5 p.m. Friday. The permit shows can continue through 4 a.m. on the 4th of July. So there you have it. If you were dying to know when Taylor Swift was going to tie the knot, apparently it's going to be this weekend in Manhattan. They say that the rehearsal dinner will have about 100 people. That's a smaller, more intimate group. But 1,000 people will be there for the wedding. I don't know. Do you think they'll do it in Madison Square Garden or just throw the party there? That's what I'm curious about. I mean, their church is just down the street. Wouldn't be that hard to go to the church and then drive up the street to have your party. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, it's going to be apparently the techniques that are being used are to keep the people away from this wedding, and drones and that kind of stuff, is to put it inside and then to set up these tents that people actually drive through and when they get out, you can't see them. That's apparently how they're going to protect this thing. And, what will happen? Are there going to be pictures? Surely Taylor Swift is not going to get married and there wouldn't be any pictures. There wouldn't be any video, right? Perish the thought. It is 59 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. 2 more hours to go on the Matt Murphy Show. Brian Wilson in for the vacationing Matt Murphy.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Right now, we got a severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 5:15 for 3 counties northwest of Nashville. We've got Montgomery County, northwestern Cheatham, and west central Robertson counties until 5:15. This thing's moving northwest at 20 miles per hour. Going to be Kentucky's problem here in just a little bit. You can expect 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and nickel-size hail with this one. Could be damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Again, it is moving away from Nashville at about 20 miles per hour. All of Middle Tennessee is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 8 o'clock tonight. So going to be something we're going to have to watch tonight because the atmosphere is just ripe for these type of pop-up storms, and they could go severe. By the way, it's the busiest travel day of the weekend today, says Matt Rivers.
Saying that more than 72 million Americans will be traveling at some point over this holiday period. And if you are flying, today will be the busiest day for that. The FAA saying that they'll be handling more than 52,000 flights today. That is thousands more than it handles on a typical day. And TSA is expected to screen more than 3 million passengers today.
Now, more than 250,000 people expected to travel downtown for the 4th of July concerts and fireworks on Saturday. But if you want to have your own show at home, well, here's Channel 4's Braden Ross, who spoke with Vanderbilt Burns Center Director Dr. Ann Wagner.
She says if you're going to set off your own fireworks, make sure you're sober, that you're doing it on a flat surface in a clear area, and have water nearby in case something goes wrong. And if you do, you should also know you're committing a crime in Davidson County. Last July 4th holiday, Hub Nashville got more than 300 reports of suspected fireworks. That's on top of the hundreds of suspected fireworks calls Nashville's 911 dispatchers answered, which can tie up the lines for emergencies. If your neighbor is setting off illegal fireworks, you should only call 911 if there's a serious injury or fire involved. You can make any non-emergency fireworks reports on Hub Nashville.
Well, a D.C. area man who was once on the U.S. Olympic canoeing team has been indicted by a Superior Court grand jury. The Trump administration alleges he damaged the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy has more from D.C.
The single count, destruction of property worth more than $1,000, carries up to 10 years in prison. Olympic canoeist David Hearn insists he did not rip the lining of the reflecting pool, but merely touched the end of a loose piece of it. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro.
National Park Service employees observed Hearn actually forcefully and violently pulling up and removing the bottom liner with both hands.
Hearn's attorney calls the charges outrageous and says they should be alarming to every American. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, we've got the brake tapping in the usual places. It's still slow going northbound 65 up there to Goodlettsville. Real slow eastbound 24 from 440 northbound 65 up to the South Loop. And folks are having to do a little brake tapping on the way to Clarksville and on the way to Nashville from Clarksville. A lot of that has to do with this severe thunderstorm warning now for northeastern Montgomery, northwestern Cheatham, and west central Robertson counties until 5:15. 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, nickel-size hail can be expected. It is moving to the northwest at 20 miles per hour. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on a sweltering, I mean, it is hot out there, July 2nd. I don't know, I'm telling you the obvious, but man alive, just in the 30 feet that I need to come to get to my studio, I broke into a full-out sweat. 30 feet from the house to the studio. And I'm just sweating. So it's going to be hot. Rain is, I see some of the rain that we were worried about down near the Murfreesboro area. That seems to be fading, but the rain up in Clarksville is intensifying. Isolated showers, hot temperatures, be weather aware. Okay. They can pop up anywhere. And Ken Weaver is right. The atmosphere is just rife for this kind of activity. So, we could have it all night long. Be weather aware. Economic news. Let's talk about some news. The big news this morning was that the hiring hot streak has maybe faded or cooled just a little bit. American employers added 57,000 new jobs last month, according to the Labor Department, missing economist expectations for a gain of 115,000 jobs. However, even though it wasn't quite the strong report that they hoped for, the unemployment rate has edged down to 4.2%. 4.2%. That ain't bad. You want, in a perfect world, you want 2% inflation, and you got to understand that maybe 2 to 3% of the workforce is unemployable. Potential workforce is unemployable. So this is not horrible, and certainly better than we had during the Biden years, for sure. The job market seemed to be on firmer footing than it was in the second part of the year. The economy added on average 92,000 jobs a month over the first half of this year. In the final 6 months of the year, it shed 8,000 jobs each month on average. Unemployment rate ticked down to 4.2%, according to the Wall Street Journal, as more people left the labor force. The share of the working age population that is either working or looking for work, known as the labor force participation rate, edged down to 61.5% in June, the lowest since March of 2021. We got inflation at about 4%. In a perfect world, you want it to be 2%. Still better, way better than Biden when he was at 9.1% inflation. And Trump yesterday was talking up the economy, and well, he should. He says, if you've got a 401k, you are making a ton of money.
Everyone that has a 401k is setting records right now. And your 401k, your wife, your husband, your kids, they all think you're a genius. I'm the genius. I'm the one. No, I'm only kidding. No, I told the story the other day for a first time. A policeman came up to me, a big, strong, good-looking guy, and he said, "Sir, I want to thank you." He was almost sort of crying. "I want to thank you so much." Why? My 401k is up 84%.
Wow.
My wife was disgusted with me for years. It was just going in the wrong direction. But it's up 84% this year. And I just want to thank you, sir, because it's really helped me with my marriage. My wife is respecting me again. She thought I was an idiot. He's a big, strong guy. But the women, you know the women rule. You know that. We know. All the guys in there, you know. This guy is a big, powerful guy, and he was petrified of his wife.
I can identify.
But you know what? He said, my wife now respects me again. She thinks I'm a genius. She thinks I'm Warren Buffett. She thinks I'm one of the greatest investors. But they are up. But everybody in this room, there's not one person here that hasn't been going up 50, 60, 70, 80%. Your 401ks, you're making a lot of money. Everybody is.
Yeah, he's right about that. And that means that consumer confidence, if you're making good money in your 401k, that has a real impact on consumer confidence. And consumer confidence is the measure by how confident are people about the economy for the next foreseeable future. Do I feel optimistic about the future? Do I feel pessimistic about the future? I think that consumer confidence is on the way up. Here we go. Americans' attitude toward the economy improved slightly this month as gas prices declined, but their outlook is mostly still negative by historical standards. The Conference Board on Tuesday said its consumer confidence index rose by 0.6% to 91.2 in June. The figure is still below its year-ago average of 95.2. Consumer attitudes worsened after the Iran war. Gas prices, was a problem and when you have increases in the price of gasoline, then it can ripple through the economy in a lot of ugly ways. And we had that, but it never really got completely out of control, did it? I mean, sure, we paid more for gas, and I know that irritates you. It irritates me. Well, not me. I have an electric car, but I know it irritates a lot of people. Irritates my wife for sure. She's going to the Costco to save a few cents on her gas, going out of her way to save a few cents. It makes sense to do it. But one way or the other, the gas prices are now starting to come down. And if that's the thing that's kept inflation, a little higher than we'd like to see it, if that's the thing that has people worried about the economic, it's going to get better. Let me just give you a rundown on that. I happen to have the interesting statistics. West Texas Intermediate crude. This is the stuff that comes from the Permian Basin. Odessa, Texas, my hometown. WTI selling for $68.18 a barrel. It was well up above 100, like 112 at one point. So it's come down to 68. Now, if you talk to people, if you ever watch Landman, you've heard Tommy talk about how the situation is that you want it somewhere between $60 and $75 a barrel. It's at $68. Brent crude, always a little more expensive because it's harder to get to, is selling for $71.17 a barrel. The national average for a gallon of gas right now is $3.83. It's down below $4 a gallon nationwide. In California, you're still paying a lot, but that's because of taxes. The Tennessee average, in Tennessee, the average for a gallon of gas is $3.41. So, that's pretty good. That's a lot better. So you're going to see things, I think, start to improve, and people are going to feel a little better about the economy. Now, why is that important? It's important because we got the midterm elections coming, and people vote their pocketbooks. And if they're not happy with the state of the economy or they have concerns about the economy, then I think, it's chances are that they might vote against Republicans. But if they get to Labor Day and the price of gas is dropped to where it's right around $3 a gallon, maybe in the $2 range, $2 a gallon and 80 cents would be a great outcome. If that is the case on Labor Day, then people will feel a lot better about the economy. And if they feel good about the economy, they're going to vote conservative. Now, look, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. I think the midterms, and we'll get into those in just a minute, it's a very close question about whether we keep control of the House and Senate. But the better the economy, the lower the price of gas, the better your chances are as Republicans to hold on to the House, to hold on to the Senate. This story from the Epoch Times. Trump warns gasoline retailers of big problems if they don't cut prices. You know how they talk about how when the price of oil comes down, it seems that the price of gasoline lingers? Well, I probably know more about this than I should, but the reason for that is you paid for that gas at one price, and it's in your tank, and you can't lose money on that tank that when the tankers come and fill up the gas stations, whatever you got in your tank, you got to charge what you paid for it, or you're going to lose money. You can't lose money, so it takes a while for that tank to be processed out and the new tank to come in, and it'll be lower, and then the price can come down. It takes a little longer for prices to come down because you have to work through that inventory that's already in the system. But Trump says if you don't get the gas prices down, major oil companies, I noticed, it was not unusual a couple of weeks ago to look at the difference between a gallon of gasoline in Wilson County and a gallon of gasoline in Williamson County, and there would be a 60% difference. It would cost you 60 cents more a gallon, which is like $12-14 a tank, that you were paying if you filled up in Williamson compared to Wilson. Today, that's in the 30s. It's been cut in half, so I think the oil companies are paying attention. I do. National gas prices have been trending lower in recent weeks as global oil markets stabilized following tensions in the Mideast. According to the American Automobile Association, the national average price for a regular gas of gallon is, they say, $3.91. AAA says declining crude oil prices, improving fuel supplies have helped push prices lower, although demand is expected to rise as a record number of Americans prepare to travel over the Independence Day holiday. You're out there now, aren't you? Driving along. United States and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding on June 17th. There have been some ceasefire problems. Iran has acted badly, and we have to bop them on the nose every so often, but generally things are a lot less tense in the Mideast than they were. And that is having a great impact. Very quickly, just a couple of other stories that I found interesting that has to do with the economy. Kroger, if you go to Kroger, Kroger is buying another grocer and pharmacy retailer, Giant Eagle. When I lived in Maryland, I went to a Giant grocery store. Giant was the store I went to. Well, Kroger is buying Giant Eagle for $1.65 billion. Privately held 197 supermarkets, 11 standalone pharmacies across northern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and Indiana. Kroger has thousands of stores, much bigger operation, operating. They own Ralph's, King Soopers, Smith's, and Fred Meyer, as well as Kroger, which we all go to, many of us go to here. So there is a big deal. And then some hints from Elon Musk. A rocket company, an AI company, showed the prototype of a new phone that is slimmer than an iPhone, showed it to some investors and other stakeholders ahead of the company's initial offering. According to people familiar with the matter, the prototype was designed to run on a proprietary operating system and integrate AI technology from SpaceX's AI, maybe some of the AI that they have put in their cars, their Tesla cars. The device will use a Qualcomm Snapdragon chipset. SpaceX told some investors that the project was in an early stage and the design could change. And so there you have it. Now, look, I have an iPhone. I've been in iPhones since iPhones came out. I'm an Apple guy. I love Apple products. They're expensive, but they work. They're great for what I want to do, and I love them. But I have an iPhone, and there's only one guy who could convince me to change and give up my iPhone. It's Elon Musk, because I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty good phone if he builds it. 20 minutes past the hour. Coming up in just a moment, where are we in the midterm elections? What's going on? I'll give you my take on it right after this break. 20 minutes. I'm Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy.
And the CDC searching for the potential source of a parasitic illness identified in more than a dozen states, including the volunteer state. That's coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes past the hour, 5 o'clock. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. Matt Murphy returns on Monday, taking a long holiday weekend, riding his cycle out there doing America things on the 250th anniversary of this founding of this nation. Want to spend some time talking about the midterm elections. And here, let me just run through this very quickly. First of all, in the midterm elections, if past is prologue and history is our guide, the Republicans would not fare well in this midterm election. Obama, when he was in his midterm election, lost 60 House seats. I mean, it was, as he said, a shellacking. So it's not uncommon in a midterm election for the party in power to lose 20, 30, or even 50, 60 seats. It's, look at the history of midterm elections. That's not happening this time. Where is the sign of the blue wave? It's not there. Now, are Democrats, might they take the House? Might they take the Senate? Yes, but it's not going to be a runaway, and it's entirely possible the Republicans could hold on to it. Start with the House of Representatives. Democrats only have a 5-point lead in the midterm elections. So, so they pick up 5, maybe 6 seats. Yeah, would they take the possession of the House? Yeah, but, it could be worse. I think the fact that they're there now and they're only going to pick up 5 or 6 seats when it's not unusual to pick up 30, 40, 50, 60 seats in a midterm election, a sign that the blue wave is not materializing. And as I just told you a moment ago, I think that our economy is moving in the right direction. And by the time we get to Labor Day, which is really where a lot of people start to make their final decisions about who they're going to vote for, I think that the gas prices will be down. I think consumer confidence is on the way up. I think it's entirely possible that we might survive this one. What about the Senate? Well, as it stands right now, the Real Clear Politics average has the end result being 51 Republicans and 49 Democrats. That's how tight it is. They predict that Democrats will pick up 2 seats. Democrats are leading right now, according to Polymarket, in Georgia. Republicans are leading in Texas. Republicans are leading in Ohio. Democrats are leading in Michigan. Iowa is a tie. Maine, Democrats. New Hampshire, Democrats. Alaska, Democrats. 60%, by the way, in the latest polls. Florida, Republicans will probably win that, but North Carolina, Democrats. But all told, the Polymarket and the others say it's probably going to be pretty close to a 50-50 Senate. Could go either way. If it's a 50-50 Senate, we still maintain control, or conservatives do, because the vice president will come in and break a tie. And so that gives us control of the body, as I understand it. But are we going to pick up 3 Democrats? Look, I don't think so. And neither does a guy named Nolte. Trying to think of who this. John Nolte. This is from Breitbart. He went through and looked at all the Senate races. Texas, he thinks that there's no way that James Tallarico is beaten by Ken Paxton, who is a weak Republican candidate, but nonetheless, are you going to hire Tallarico? I don't think so. As he wrote, it's going to be very difficult for a pathetic weirdo mama boys like Tallarico to win in Texas. Maine, there's you got Susan Collins running against the guy with the Nazi tattoo, Plattner. Right now she's leading in the polls, but Collins up by 3 according to a Fox News poll. Ohio, a special election for the seat vacated by current Vice President J.D. Vance. Mike DeWine appointed Lieutenant Governor John Husted to fill the seat. The special election will determine who holds the seat until 28, when Vance's term would have ended. According to the New York Times Siena poll, Husted leaves Brown 50 to 47%. So there you go. Iowa, Joni Ernst, the Republican candidate, got Joni Ernst, who's retiring. The Republican candidate is up over a guy named Josh Turek, according to the New York Times Siena poll. Leading, Democrats are leading in North Carolina. Democrat and Senator Dan Sullivan will probably win in Alaska, but it's not as bad as you might imagine. It really looks as if that the Republicans could hold on. It's going to be close. I mean, razor thin close. But it's entirely possible that the blue wave is not developing. If the economy continues to improve, if gas prices keep coming down, I think it's possible we could hold on to both the House and Senate. No guarantees because it's really close, but at least possible. And on that note, 30 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock, time for the news with Ken Weaver.
Severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 6 o'clock north of Nashville for northeastern Montgomery County, northwestern Cheatham County, and northwestern Robertson County. This storm located near Guthrie or 10 miles east of Clarksville, moving slowly 5 miles per hour to the north, 60 mile per hour wind and quarter-size hail cannot be ruled out. All of Middle Tennessee is under a severe thunderstorm watch. That's going to be until 8 o'clock tonight. So this could continue until then. We'll be watching it for you. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Well, the CDC searching for the potential source of a parasitic illness identified in more than a dozen states. ABC's Yuri Benajude has more.
Over 300 people in Michigan have been infected with the parasitic intestinal illness that typically comes after consuming contaminated food or water. 17 other states are also reporting cases. It's known as cyclosporiasis, and those who experience symptoms typically report cramping, bloating, and most commonly watery diarrhea. Doctors say to reduce your risk, be sure to wash your hands and your produce. Yuri Benajad, ABC News, New York.
Yeah, Tennessee's among 17 states reporting cases this year. A former Franklin soccer coach is headed to prison for 30 years for sexually assaulting children. Channel 4's Lydia Fielder reports.
Camilo Campos Hurtado was sentenced today. The 66-year-old convicted of sexually exploiting children, along with receiving child sexual abuse material. Investigators say he gave kids drugs and alcohol before sexually abusing them and then recording it. We're told the victims were between 9 and 17 years old. He was also convicted for being in the country illegally.
The couple who climbed the spire of the Empire State Building, then got engaged on the way down, appeared before a New York judge today. They've been charged with felony reckless endangerment, burglary, and more.
After a daring climb up the spire of the Empire State Building, followed by a proposal, the couple faced a New York City judge. Angela Nicolau and Ivan Kuznetsov did not enter a plea and are now out on supervised release. The 33 and 32-year-old, known for their daredevil stunts, seen walking out of court.
If you want to get married, they're doing it right there. Would this be more convenient?
The judge granted the daring duo low-level supervised release that's often given to low-risk offenders. Their next court date is August 24th. Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Crashes 40 eastbound at Fessler's Lane. Two Rivers, a crash on-ramp partially blocked. Briley Parkway southbound on-ramp from Opry Mills. Madison, Gallatin Pike North south of Old Hickory Boulevard. Clarksville, a crash on-ramp partially blocked. 24 westbound from Wilma Rudolph. Antioch, Murfreesboro Pike just east of Hamilton Church Road. Bellevue, Hicks Road at Sawyer Brown Road. And then, of course, you've got the severe thunderstorm warning until 6 o'clock for folks in northeastern Montgomery County, northwestern Cheatham County, all the way also northwestern Robertson County. That'll get in the way. Some of that heavy rain there, 60-mile-per-hour winds, possible quarter-size hail. I'm Ken Weaver.
Good afternoon, everybody. 539 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Brian Wilson in for the vacationing Matt Murphy. Be back on Monday. Tomorrow, best of, because it's a company holiday. A lot of people have Friday off, I think. So, those people who only have to work. I know some people only have to work 4 days a week. Can you imagine what a cush life that is? Anyway, he'll be back on Monday. Everything's good. So I have a question, and I want to be delicate about this. And by the way, Ken Weaver, if you're listening, this would be the perfect time for you to chime in with your Mitch McConnell impression, because I want to talk about Mitch McConnell for a little bit.
I'll be ready.
Give me just a little bit of your Mitch McConnell.
I'll be ready. Whenever you ask the question, I will answer.
Well, Mitch McConnell, as you know, represents the state of Kentucky just to our north. We have listeners up there for sure.
Makes some great bourbon.
And some great bourbon and some fast horses. Got some fast horses we do. Well, he's not in good shape. And that's been the case for a while. He's been, he has these freeze up moments and all of that kind of stuff. But recently he was rushed to the hospital. And we don't know much about his situation right now. HIPAA and all that. Senator Mitch McConnell, according to the New York Post, was found unconscious and may have suffered a heart attack in his D.C. residence before being rushed to a local hospital last month, according to a district fire and EMS dispatch call made public on Wednesday. The call happened on June 14th, referenced medical personnel in a ALS or Advanced Life Support Ambulance being sent to the home shortly before 9 a.m. and mentioned in that call that CPR was in process for a cardiac arrest. So not good for Mitch McConnell. And, given the fact that the United States Senate is, 53-47 right now, Republicans only hold it. If you lose Mitch McConnell, that comes down to 52. And many people are wondering, God forbid if something were to happen to Mitch McConnell. We don't wish him ill, but what would happen if he were to pass from the scene? Well, according to a new law that was passed in 2024, if a vacancy occurs, a 2024 Kentucky law requires Democrat Governor Andy Beshear to call a special election to fill the seat rather than allowing him to appoint an interim successor. The process completely bypasses gubernatorial appointments. This was passed, I think, by a Republican House there in Kentucky. My memory is, I think it was passed by a Kentucky House when Mitch McConnell started to, decline a little bit in health. And they didn't want a Democrat governor to appoint the interim successor. So they passed this law that says that, you have to hold a special election. I'm not at all clear as to what would happen, who would represent until that election could be held and a decision made. I guess staff would continue on, but you wouldn't have an elected senator in Kentucky. And anyway, there you have it. But apparently he was, there was a CPR in progress. And then since then, we're getting very little information about what's going on with the United States Senator, Mitch McConnell. Here's another version of the story. EMS was called to Senator Mitch McConnell's home for unconscious patient last month, recording suggests. On the same morning, Republican Senator Mitch McConnell was hospitalized last month. Hospital emergency medical personnel went to his home to respond to an unconscious person who appeared to experience cardiac arrest. This according to a public EMS dispatch call reviewed by CBS News. During the recording, a dispatcher called in a cardiac arrest, and a medic said there was a CPR in progress. The dispatcher also said somebody was unconscious. The call came before 9 a.m. on June 14th. The senator's name was not mentioned during the call, and CBS has not confirmed the identity of the unconscious person, but it is thought to be Mitch McConnell. He's receiving excellent care, said his staff. They say, he's fully engaged, he's doing Senate business, and he's engaged in Kentucky matters. I hope that's the case. I hope that is indeed the case, but This comes at a sort of a bad time because there is most of the time much of the time a reliable Republican vote, and I don't always agree with his votes at all. And he definitely has it in for Trump. There's no doubt about that. He has TDS just as much as any Democrat I ever met. But the bottom line is he generally votes conservative, generally, most of the time. And if you have a situation where, for example, we have a Supreme Court retirement tomorrow, and you got to start that process, we would be down one vote for a Republican nominee. So that's why that is important. How is it going to be resolved? I don't know, but there you have it. Also from the swamp, the President of the United States has been criticized by many as having made too much money while he's President of the United States. But the vast majority of his money has come from crypto earnings. And he was asked about this the other day while he was in North Dakota. And he said, look, I don't know what my investments are. And that's often the case. He hands it over to money handlers and he stays out of it.
They take it. And I never speak to any of the people that run the money, but they're at big institutions and they invest in whatever they invest in.
He doesn't know. But he did make quite a bit of money, I'll tell you that for sure. While the president was in North Dakota, he went there for the opening of the Teddy Roosevelt Museum in North Dakota. Is that North Dakota, South Dakota? I forget. One of the two. Trump takes a maiden flight on his Qatari-gifted Air Force One. It has a new paint job. It has lie-flat leather seats and library bookcases. President Trump on Wednesday took a maiden flight on a long-awaited new Air Force One, a Boeing 747-8, that was given to the U.S. by the Qatari government. Wall Street Journal was among those on board for the trip. It has undergone a $400 million overhaul to equip it with state-of-the-art security and technology, such as a new communication system. The renovations also included some alterations to the lavish interior of the Qatari royal family's private plane that they donated to the United States. Isn't it a shame that we have to do that? I mean, Air Force One, there are two of them, by the way. There are two 747s that can serve as Air Force One. Well, basically any plane the president is in is Air Force One. If he's in a small jet, it's Air Force One. If he's on a 757, as sometimes he uses when he goes to small airports, it's on Air Force One. If he's on it, it's Air Force One. But we have two of these, the 747s. They're called VC-25As, I think, in the military parlance. They're military jets. They are specially equipped. I have flown on both of them. And I can tell you it was a great jet, but it was 36 years old. And it was time to replace them. And, the technology has gotten better. All kinds of things, needed to be done to upgrade the president's major form of transportation, but they weren't going to be ready for a while, and the old ones were wearing out. I can't imagine. This version of the 747, the Dash 8, is a lot longer than the previous 747s, and it's plush. I'll be honest, I'll tell you. We used to, when I flew on Air Force One, the press cabin was in the back. It was next to the galley. And so to get out of our little cabin, which you never were allowed out, sometimes presidents would come back. I covered Clinton and W to some extent. And sometimes Clinton would come back, and do a press conference or talk to reporters, but not often. Trump comes back all the time, but that little cabin, you couldn't get out of it. You couldn't go through the galley, and you weren't allowed to go through the next cabin to get into the main part of the aircraft because that's where the Secret Service agents sat. So it was small. It was, as aircraft go, it was comfortable. But now, because they have extra room, all the seats lie down. You can sleep if you're on a long trip. And we were often on long trips when we flew on Air Force One. The old birds were pretty good, but it was time. to make a change. And the fact that so many people are upset about this, I don't understand it. The President of the United States should never have had to accept a gift from the Qatari government, the Qatari royal family. But that's where we are. And by the way, I love the new paint job. I mean, it's got red and white and blue and a little gold stripe, and it's bold looking. And the problem is, it was Trump's idea, and so everybody's going to hate it in Washington. But I got to tell you, I think it looks pretty good. I don't know what the long-term plan is. I don't know when the new jets will be ready. This is called the Bridge jet. They call it a VC-25B. B stands for Bridge. It is not expected to be the long-term jet for the President of the United States, but we don't know when the others are going to be ready, and it's taken way too long. By the way, the President's getting a new Marine One, too. He's getting a brand new Marine One. That's the helicopter that he flies in when he flies. They're going to land it, and because it is a bigger helicopter, a more powerful helicopter, they're having to build a helipad. It can no longer land on the grass. There will be a concrete pad put in there for the new helicopter. 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We've got a 4th of July surprise for one Kentucky World War II veteran we're going to tell you about coming up at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, Ken Weaver, going to eat any hot dogs on the 4th of July?
I'm probably going to eat a few.
Yeah, I love hot dogs. And we're going to be doing some hot dogs at our house.
Yes,
I got a story here from the Associated Press about how we came to have the hot dog as a 4th of July tradition.
All right.
And we you want to know the story? Listen to this. 19th century Indiana passed something known as blue laws. You know what blue laws are because you had them in Oklahoma, right?
That's right. Had them in Arkansas.
Blue laws were basically passed and said certain things can't be sold on Sunday, which is supposed to be a day of rest.
Yes, sir.
And in Indiana, in 1884, this was in the newspaper there in Indiana. They were banning, because of blue laws, the dispensing of hot dogs on the street. And that was the first reference anybody can find to the term hot dog.
Interesting.
Wienerwurst, they were German Weisswurst, Brockwurst, and Blutwurst, becoming a Blutwurst, I guess it's called. That was the first. That was September 14th, 1884. And then they started selling them at ballparks, and that became nothing more American than baseball, nothing more American than having a hot dog at a baseball game.
Yes, sir.
Then you had Nathan's and their big hot dog eating contest, which occurs on the 4th of July, and that made it sort of a 4th of July thing. The National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, yes, there is one, says there are 19 regional varieties. I've never heard of this. From the French fried topped Cleveland Polish boy. I like Polish sausage. I do.
Ooh, that sounds
to
good.
The bacon wrapped Sonoran dog.
Oh.
The renowned Chicago dog.
Yes,
with
sir.
its 7 traditional toppings and a poppy seed bun. Despite regional differences, and there's one where you put cream cheese on it.
I'll do that.
I'd never heard of such a thing.
I'm going to do that this weekend.
Put a little cream cheese on your hot dog.
Yes, sir.
So with World War II approaching, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth they became the first reigning British royals to visit America. The Roosevelts, to the horror of FDR's mother, served them hot dogs, and the king said, "I like one. Give me another." I think when the current king visited, I think he ate a hot dog and liked them.
Well, all those
Give me
people
another
over
one,
here,
Emma.
all those
Give me
people
one of
over
them
here
hot
for the
dogs.
World Cup are loving them.
That's right. Isn't it been fun to watch these people coming to visit the World Cup?
Yes.
And how much they love the things that we take for granted?
Yep.
We have people in our country who are communists who hate our country, but the people who are coming to visit here expected something completely different than what they found. God, it's amazing to watch, people appreciate what America is with fresh eyes. Listen, we got one more hour of the Matt Murphy Show. It's Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. Back after the news with Ken Weaver.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Got a flash flood warning right now for Montgomery County. They've had a lot of rain. Severe thunderstorm warning now until 6:15. Looks like this is going to be for southern Todd County. Looks like the severe thunderstorm warning there for Montgomery County, Cheatham, and Robertson counties. Looks like that has been allowed to expire. AAA predicting more than 60 million people hitting the roads for the July 4th holiday, with today being the busiest day. Another 12 million expected to fly. Average per gallon in Middle Tennessee is $3.44, according to Gas Buddy, if you're going to be driving. More than 250,000 people are expected to go downtown for the concerts and fireworks show on Saturday. Channel 4's Braden Ross on what you should know if you're staying home for your own show.
Vanderbilt Burn Center Director Dr. Ann Wagner says those DIY displays keep their staff busy all weekend.
I often get asked, what is a safe way to do fireworks? The honest answer is going to a show, like we talked about, or not having them at all.
Last year, more than 13,000 people were injured by fireworks in the U.S., many of them children.
We get a lot of injuries related to people leaning over to see why that firework didn't go off.
And she says it's not just fireworks that cause problems.
The things as a burn doc we would love to see go away are sparklers. Those things get up to 2,000 degrees and literally can melt metal.
Months after the FBI raided Georgia's Fulton County election office and seized hundreds of boxes of 2020 ballots, the agency said to be surging resources into the state. ABC's Olivia Rubin has more.
Priority investigation. That is how the FBI is describing its ongoing investigation into the 2020 election in Georgia, according to a source and an internal FBI memo I reviewed. According to that memo, the FBI is surging 260 FBI personnel, including intelligence analysts from around the country, to help with this effort. That means field offices are being instructed to dedicate a certain number of personnel each based on their size, according to that memo. And the FBI is asking the personnel to conduct hundreds of record checks, and they're asking them to do it quickly by later this month, noting overtime has been authorized. President Trump claims the election was stolen, but has not provided any evidence. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, Washington.
A 4th of July surprise for one Kentucky World War II veteran more than 80 years in the making.
Kentucky veteran Glenn Fisher waited for the recognition he earned on a battlefield in Germany. Fisher landed on a Utah beach in 1944. Waiting to cross the Rhine River, his unit came under fire.
The Germans continue to fire these huge German 88 artillery guns, and that's where Glenn was wounded.
A wound like that should have meant a Purple Heart, but a recording error and a 1973 fire that destroyed millions of military records. So Jeff Thoke, his longtime friend, spent years digging, uncovering the proof they needed. A medal earned in 1945, finally received in 2026.
That's Hannah Battah reporting. And the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Crashes Berry Hill, 8th Avenue South, north of Craighead Street. Two Rivers crash. On-ramp partially blocked. Briley Parkway southbound from Opry Mills. 24 westbound at Wilma Rudolph in Montgomery County. Lebanon 40 eastbound approaching 840. Highway 100 at Hicks Road, Harpeth Bend Road in Devon Park, and in Bellevue, Hicks Road at Sawyer Brown Road. We have a flash flood warning for Montgomery County, and then a severe thunderstorm warning for a little sliver of Montgomery County, southwestern Montgomery County. You can expect 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, nickel-size hail. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 7 minutes past the hour at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You're saying, wait, that doesn't sound like Matt Murphy. Well, you would be absolutely correct. I am Brian Wilson, your friend and allegedly retired radio buddy. It's FAARRB. I'm no longer just a farb. I'm a tharb. Glad to be with you, filling in for Matt Murphy today. He will be back on Monday. We're doing best of tomorrow because it's a company holiday. A lot of people taking off. I mean, apparently, according to Ken Weaver, this is the getaway day. Thursday's the getaway day. And getaway days have gotten earlier and earlier, it seems. But a lot of people leaving. If they're traveling for the 4th of July, if they're going someplace to celebrate with friends and family, this was the day that they all hit the road. And we'll get into some stuff that's 4th of July related here in just a little bit. But I want to start out this hour of the Matt Murphy Show by talking about an event that occurred today in Washington. Jeanine Pirro is the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. You know Judge Jeanine from her appearances. She used to be on Fox News, and now she's a good attorney. By the way, she looked great today. She looked really good today. And she is in her element. She is loving what she's doing, and she is out to defend those who would tear down the nation's capital. As you know, there's this giant reflecting pool that runs between the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. If you've ever been to the Lincoln Memorial, you climb up to take a look at old Abe, and you turn around and you look right down the mall, and that reflecting pool reflects beautifully the Washington Monument in the distance. It's historic. It's where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech, and it is hallowed ground. The reflecting pool had fallen into great disrepair. It was full of algae and goose poop, and it was leaking, according to one story that I read at the time. It's hard to imagine this, but they said it was leaking maybe as much as 40,000 gallons of water a day. And it was just a mess. Trump comes to town, and he puts up, really, it's not him, it's the Interior Department that does this, but the Interior Department, at Donald Trump's behest, decided they were going to put money to beautify and return the nation's capital to its previous glory, and it really had fallen into great disrepair. It really had. Fountains had fallen by the wayside. Monuments had been defaced. It was really tragic what had happened to what was once a very beautiful city. And Trump said, we're going to have none of that. So he went out and he hired a company. Well, the Interior Department hired the company to come in, and for $14 million, depending on who you talk to, they put a plasticized coating, a rubberized coating, on the bottom that was dark blue, the same color as the blue in the American flag, and then they filled it up. And then somebody, because Trump's name became associated with it, somebody came in with razor blades and sharp objects and cut the crap out of this thing, and it started peeling up. Damage was done by those. This is why we can't have nice things. It was really tragic. there are people out there, if Donald Trump's name is associated, they're going to be against it. Even something as innocuous as resurfacing the reflecting pool, something that if it happened during the Obama years or it happened during the Biden years, nobody would have even noticed it. Nobody would have ever talked about it. But because Trump became associated with this, and those people who had Trump derangement syndrome were going to destroy it. They're going to tear it down. Today, one of them got charged after a grand jury met to investigate evidence. Here is Judge Jeanine Pirro.
And this is not the way of a civilized society. It is anarchy. And our nation has weathered moments of anarchy and chaos in the past, and individuals have made a decision, many of them, to destroy and to damage national monuments, not taking into account the fact that the rest of the nation considers these monuments important and necessary to our history. But this unchecked vandalism and civil disorder turns into criminal behavior, and that's why we're here today. They are an affront to the dignity of our shared history, and we will not allow our sacred monuments to be roped off, defaced, or diminished, or in any way impacted by disgruntled individuals who think that they, and not the rest of the nation, have the right to decide what should happen. These landmarks and monuments belong to all of us, and they must be protected for generations to come. The president, as you heard from him, has been able to improve and to clean up 50 parks.
50 parks. Listen to this list of things that Donald Trump has done to improve the nation's capital.
More than 48 monuments that have been repaired, 22 fountains have been returned to service, and these monuments and fountains must be protected, and those who decide that they want to do harm will be held accountable.
That's a lot of improvement. Why would anybody take something that's just been repaired? I mean, what drives a person to do this? You repair the monument, you make it nice again, you clean off the previous damage that was done, the defacing, the spray painting of certain monuments. You put our parks back in order. And by the way, he says the one that they're going to get next is the one directly across from the White House. They're going to rework that one, and that'll be nice. But why would anybody, once you get it done, why would somebody come in and just trash it? The only reason is TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. Because his name was associated, they have to come in and they have to undo the good that has been done. Let her continue.
So, today, a grand jury has returned a felony indictment against a defendant, David Hearn, for felony destruction of property, for which he faces 10 years in prison.
This is, by the way, an ex-Olympian athlete.
The indictment is in response to an incident that occurred on June 19th of 2026, in which the defendant Hearn ripped a piece of recently installed sealant on the bottom of the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial. The evidence shows, and we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that Hearn willfully destroyed property at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. This was a deliberate act to damage the reflecting pool at the National Mall that members of the National Park Service actually have worked hard to restore and have witnessed. By Hearn's own admission, on June 19th, he reached down into the pool. Our evidence further shows that the National Park Service employees observed Hearn actually forcefully and violently pulling up and removing the bottom liner with both hands. According to witnesses, Hearn damaged approximately 2 square feet of sealant from the bottom of the pool. A Parks employee actually told Hearn to stop his behavior and stop what he was doing. Hearn reacted by shouting at that Parks employee, saying that she cared too much about the reflecting pool, and why did she even care? since it wasn't her pool.
That probably came from a sworn statement.
Now, Mr. Hearn's behavior was characterized by witnesses as belligerent, rude, and disrespectful, according to National Park Service employees that witnessed the event. Now, let me talk a moment about those employees. Many of those employees have come from around the country because they are proud of this nation. They are proud of the 250th anniversary that we are about to experience. Many of them have decided to step away from their desks and to go outside and actually work next to the pool to witness what was going on, as opposed to staying in a cool office. These are the witnesses that we're talking about in this case. These are the people who care about this particular monument and what is going on. They work long hours and they are tireless in their efforts, and they must be shown respect and not be treated with belligerence and with disrespect by those who seek to damage the very monuments that they are there to protect. And they certainly should not have to witness the damage done right in front of their faces. The United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia remains committed to protecting our national resources, our monuments, and our parks from vandals, and we are especially committed to doing so in advance of our 250th anniversary.
Keying in on that, how do you prove that $1,000?
With an expert. Come to the trial.
Yeah, she's taking questions. She's not brokering any stupid questions.
To be drained? Like, is that because it has to be
You can.
drained?
We will hear all that at the trial.
Did he have any tools, or was it just his bare hands?
Right now, we believe it's his bare hands, both hands.
So does that indicate in your belief that it was probably damaged before, or do you believe that he
he damaged it
further? But do you believe it had already been damaged before?
He damaged the pool.
Before he touched it?
He damaged this pool.
Yeah.
But there have been, all these videos, obviously.
Well, good. I'm glad you've got that evidence. Come on in the grand jury. You can testify. Next.
I love that woman. She is awesome. And they also have their, people who don't understand Washington understand that there are probably more police officers in Washington than any other place in the world. I mean, all God's children got their own police department in Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill has its own police. Secret Service has a uniform division that they protect the White House, and the State Department has its own police force. The FBI has its own police force. Everybody's got their own police force, but there is one pretty good-sized police force that can be called in, and it's the Park Police. Believe it or not, much of Washington, D.C. is a national park, and they have park police that patrol those areas. They're no-nonsense people. In fact, in the day when I first went to Washington, I was warned, don't turn your back on a park police guy. Those guys are mean, and they are nasty. I think that image has changed a little bit over the years, but the bottom line is they're a serious police organization, and the deputy chief was at this press conference, and he says, if anybody tries to do something in Washington, D.C. to damage one of our monuments, if anybody gets out of line, we will come on down on them like a ton of bricks. And well, they should. This is why we can't have nice things. Oh, it is maddening. And by the way, this guy did not do the initial damage, it appears, but he added to the damage that was already done, and the investigation continues. And I suspect before it's all said and done, a handful of other people, these anarchists, are going to be brought to the bar of justice by Jeanine Pirro. Stand by. It will happen. 20 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, Ken Weaver, thank you so much. It's a sweltering July 2nd out there. Hope you're staying cool. Hope you're trying to stay out of the storms. I just happened to notice a few moments ago, I was looking at the TV screen in Washington, D.C. right now. The heat index is somewhere between 112, 113, 114 degrees. The real temperature is like 100 degrees. But, I mean, in some parts of the East Coast, it's very common to see heat index, the feel-like temperatures, around 114 or 115 degrees. Whew! That's hot. But there you have it. So Hillary Clinton, once again, is pissing me off. I'm sorry, but she is. She has done an interview, and this takes a little while to unfold, but it's very interesting. She's done an interview in which she suggests that those who work in the intelligence community should keep secrets from the Director of National Intelligence. Can you believe that? I mean, if there's anybody who's ever weaponized the intelligence community for political purposes, it was done during the Obama years, and it was done when she was Secretary of State. And, she knows how this agency has been weaponized in favor. A lot of people in deep state, in the intelligence community, they are there. They hide out. They're hard to find. But Trump's been trying to clear out the intelligence community. And he sent a guy over there named Bill Pulte as the acting director of national intelligence. And Hillary Clinton is saying that you should keep stuff. If you're in the intelligence community now, you should keep stuff from the director of national intelligence. Here she is.
And created the DNI, that this would be a better coordinating.
Let me try that again. Here we go.
You should definitely be worried about everything. This is a naked partisan takeover of the Director of National Intelligence, which was formed following 9/11 to.
Well, hold on. If she thinks that it's being weaponized, she would know because she knows exactly how that was done.
Better try to coordinate the various intelligence agencies, the CIA, the NSA. There's like 17 of them. Because we missed a lot of signals that we should have paid attention to leading up to 9/11. And it was thought in this legislation that created the Department of Homeland Security and created the DNI, that this would be a better coordinating mechanism.
Now, she's right about that, by the way. I mean, she is correct that that's how we got to have a DNI. We didn't always have a Director of National Intelligence. There was a time when the CIA director, they had a director, and the NSA had a director, and I don't know, the National Reconnaissance Office has a director, and they all were keeping information to themselves and not sharing it with the other intelligence agencies. And that's what we learned in 9/11 is that the non-sharing of information allowed the intelligence community to miss the attacks that were being planned. And so they set up a Director of National Intelligence who sits above all of the various, reports directly to the President of the United States, sits above all of the various intelligence gathering agencies. And she said there's some 17 of them that are out. Defense Intelligence Agency is another one. And that person had privy to all the information so that stuff didn't get lost. But now she's saying, look, what we got to do here is that we got to go in there and we got to keep stuff from the guy that is temporarily in charge, Bill Pulte. He's put temporarily in charge. He's not the president's final choice for this job, but he's there now. And it's I think, criminal for Hillary Clinton to suggest that intelligence officers within our government should withhold intelligence from the boss.
DNI has access to everything. I hope there are career and even political appointees in various of the agencies that are slow walking or refusing to share information with Pulte.
Hold on a minute. Say that again.
Career and even political appointees in various of the agencies that are slow walking or refusing to share information with Pulte. So the bottom line to me is he's very dangerous. He's a loose cannon. But I am sure they are cheering it in Beijing and Tehran and Moscow and other places because it's a shambles.
You know, sometimes in a situation in government and even in business, in the business world, you need somebody to come in to be an agent of change. Now, that person may not be the ultimate person to lead an organization at the end of the day, but they are the right person to come in and do the hard work that needs to be done to get rid of people who do not have the best interest of this nation at heart, to get rid of people who are part of the deep state, and to make sure that, you know, some of the secrets that, you know, we're in the middle of a lot of revelations about UAPs and the JFK assassination. I mean, you know, there's a whole lot of things that are in the works right now where they're supposed to declassify stuff. And you send Bill Pulte in there, not because he's the right guy, but he will declassify this stuff and he will clean up that rat's nest over there in the intelligence world. And then the next guy can come in. Trump has his next guy all lined up. And he wants everybody to know Bill Pulte is only there for a short period of time.
We've got DNI Pulte over there as the new director. We also know you have the task force set up on declassification, maybe talking about international, maybe looking at some declassification. Are you able to give us an update on that?
Declassify almost everything. And you know, by the way, we have Jay Clayton is going in. You know, Bill Pulte is a very talented guy, but he's just there temporarily until Jay Clayton. And Jay Clayton is going through the process. And Jay Clayton, highly respected, and so is Bill Pulte. But Bill is there just for a fairly short period of time. But while he's there, I said, you can declassify whatever you want.
Declassify whatever you want. We're a little late getting to the news. 6:32 now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 39 past the hour of 6 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on the second day of July. Things are cooling down a little bit. Still have some pretty intense thunder showers in the region, but they're very isolated. These are convective thunder showers. They pop up. They sort of rain themselves out, but they can be severe. So be weather aware. We're in that. As Ken Weaver said, I think he's right. The atmosphere is just juiced for these kinds of storms right now. So keep an eye to the sky. I think over the next couple of days, we'll see a lot of that kind of stuff. I see like Friday a 40% chance of rain. But what that really means, when you look at it and you go to the hour by hour breakdown, there's no hour where it's just a cumulative thing. There's a 40% chance overall, but I mean, it may be only a 20% chance where you are. One way or the other, it's all a statistical thing. But, I think we're talking about isolated showers that can crop up. And if they hit you, you're going to get rained on, you're going to get wet, and they'll be done very quickly. It's not like a big front coming through, nothing like that, okay? It's in the upper 80s right now, but still pretty warm and pretty moist out there. I know a lot of people don't like the word moist, but it is moist. I want to tell you a story about my days in Washington when I was a correspondent for the Fox News Channel. And I covered a lot of different things back in the day, but mostly I was a Capitol Hill correspondent. I was a White House correspondent. But in the early going, we didn't have a full-time Supreme Court reporter. And when things would happen at the Supreme Court, I often would get sent over to cover the Supreme Court. I covered Bush v. Gore, for example, and that kind of stuff. So I know a little bit about the Supreme Court. So it is true that after a Supreme Court session ends, like one ended the other day, if there's going to be an announcement, it generally comes after the last day, maybe the next day, maybe a couple of days later, somebody will announce that they're going to leave. I think if anybody's going to leave the Supreme Court, if we're going to have a resignation, it will probably be announced tomorrow about 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on a Friday before a big holiday weekend. I don't know that there's anything in the works. Alito is said to be, one of those who might leave. The other one you hear is Clarence Thomas. I hope they put Clarence Thomas. Well, I hope they, like at Weekend at Bernie's, I hope they prop him up in the chair and tell everybody he's still making decisions because he's the best we got. But if there's going to be one, it probably will happen tomorrow, 5 o'clock. But Nina Totenberg, the vaunted Supreme Court reporter, Nina Totenberg, who works for NPR, National Public Radio, erroneously reported the other day, after all of the final decisions came down from the High Court and they finished their term, that Samuel Alito, had tendered his resignation. He hadn't, but she made a horrible, horrible mistake. Now, before I get into what she says and how she explains herself, let me tell you, I had my best scoop ever in Washington was the day that I reported exclusively ahead of everybody else that Sandra Day O'Connor was going to resign from the Supreme Court. I had a day down where I didn't have a lot of things to do. It's rare. And I decided we're getting close to the end of the Supreme Court term. There had been a lot of speculation that William Rehnquist, then the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was going to resign. And so we were all on alert for that. I called maybe, 30, 40 people that I had good contacts around town. And I said, look, if you hear anything about a Supreme Court, resignation, please call me no matter what time of day it is, day or night. If you hear anything, even if you're not sure about it, don't hesitate to call me. I want to know this. So I had a Thursday and a Friday off because I was working. I did a weekend show. I anchored a weekend show. So I was off on Thursday or Friday. I forget that the final day came down and I get a call. I'm sitting literally in the parking lot of a Home Depot in Germantown, Maryland, where I lived. And I get a call from one of these sources who says, hey, Brian, I'm hearing the decision was made this morning, and it's not the chief, it's Sandra Day O'Connor. Well, I said, how do you know? Well, we had somebody over at the court having breakfast this morning, and they heard it, and they came over to the Hill, and now it's buzzing all around. Well, that's not enough to go on the air with. But I called it in. I called it into the Fox News desk. We had a special phone line where we called in. And when you called that number, everybody in the Bureau could hear you, and the people at the White House could hear you. People at the Pentagon could hear you. Everybody could hear you if you called in on this one line. Everybody had a little squawk box there. I said, hey, look, I'm hearing the story that it's not going to be Chief Justice. It's going to be Sandra Day O'Connor. I have heard it's the people at the Supreme Court this morning said they were hearing that she had tendered her resignation. Well, that's not enough to go on the air with. So I said, I don't feel good going on the air, but we need to be working this because I hear it. I believe it's right, but I want another source on it. So I make a few more calls and I call back in. And while I was calling back in with additional information, the White House, Jim Angle, the correspondent over there, White House correspondent, got confirmation that indeed the White House had received a letter from Sandra Day O'Connor announcing her resignation. I went straight to air from my phone right there in the parking lot of the Home Depot and broke this story. By the time I got on the air, I had a third source and I had a fourth source. So the bottom line is we weren't going on the air unless this was completely vetted, and we had it locked down solidly. There were a lot of Supreme Court, longtime Supreme Court reporters, Nina Totenberg being one of them, who got their butts kicked that day by somebody who only occasionally covered the high court. I don't tell you that story to brag. I tell you that story to let you know that when you have a story of that nature, you have to go to the nth degree to get it confirmed, absolutely confirmed. And we did. Nina Totenberg didn't. She reported erroneously that Samuel Alito had resigned when he had not.
This is my fault and only my fault.
Well, at least she's taken the responsibility for it.
It's not NPR's fault. It's we do pre-write stories about people for when they retire, when they die, whatever, so we can quickly, and they take a lot of time to prepare.
Well, that's true. Those kinds of stories are done in advance. I mean, for example, I would occasionally do obit stories that would be put on a shelf when the person was completely healthy and fine. And to get that story on the air, you had to have a very high-ranking vice president at Fox News sign off on taking that tape and putting it, because you never wanted to report that somebody had died when they hadn't died. So before you ran that obit, you wanted to make sure they were dead. I mean, again, there are levels of safety protocols that are put into place to make sure you don't erroneously report that if you're a responsible news organization. But apparently NPR is not a responsible news organization.
In this case, this was just my fault. I left the courtroom a little early before they were finished, but after they finished announcing opinions. And when I realized that nobody was following me, I said to somebody, what's going on in there? And I misunderstood the answer and thought that somebody had suggested that Justice Alito was retiring.
And with that, she went to air. She published the story. No double checking, no second phone call, no doubling back to find out if what you had heard was correct. She just went with it. It's a horrible mistake. I mean, an unforgivable mistake to report that somebody is resigning. I mean, there is no bigger story than when a Supreme Court justice retires in Washington. Because the battle lines are immediately drawn. Everybody gets amped up. Everybody starts to get excited because a Supreme Court battle, as you know, can be one of the ugliest things that happens in Washington. And so when you report that, people start going crazy. But it turns out Alito had not turned in his notice, had not sent in a letter of resignation.
I was completely wrong. I wasn't in the courtroom. This is all on me. This is not on the network. And I regret. It's the worst mistake I've ever made.
Not true. Maybe not true, because she apparently, I read one story that said way back in 72, yes, she's been reporting in Washington since 72. When she was just a beginner, she got fired for a plagiarism charge. So it's not necessarily the first time she's made a big mistake.
Made in my more than 50 years as a journalist. I deeply regret it, and I've written an apology to Justice Alito.
I appreciate you coming out, and I think people appreciate the transparency of all of that and an unfortunate mistake that came about. Is there any indicators that anyone, Alito or others, might be stepping down because we know the midterms were coming up? Did the timing have to do with it at all?
No, but we're used to justices retiring on the last day of the term or the day after, and I'm pretty sure now that nobody's retiring, least of all Justice Alito.
Well, so we'll see if that's true or not. Like again, if it's going to happen, my expectation, knowing the way Washington works, it'll happen tomorrow, about 5:00, and we'll it to sort of diminish the impact of such an announcement. The two you hear about are Alito and Clarence Thomas. President Donald Trump, according to Newsmax, reportedly has a list of potential Supreme Court nominees who will uphold the Constitution and the rule of law, according to a White House official. White House officials emphasized the president is prepared to fill any future vacancies on the nation's highest court after a false report this week claiming that Justice Samuel Alito was retiring sparked speculation in Washington. Current and former administration officials told the Washington Examiner that Trump has already vetted a list of potential nominees, but is not actively narrowing it. Why? Because there is no vacancy currently on the Supreme Court. There is a list that exists, said one former senior Trump White House official. A lot of these people who would be picked are already people who, in sense, are vetted, ready to go. If you're smart, you have that list, and you have done your due diligence on these people. You have started to research. If there is a vacancy, they will take their top candidates and they'll revet them. But Nina Totenberg screwed up big time. And I'm telling you, as somebody who understands how this process works and somebody who has actually reported a Supreme Court resignation, she violated virtually every good rule of journalism by putting this story on the air before it was confirmed. It should never have made air. I've never worked in a newsroom with processes that freaking sloppy. It's egregious as these things go. Very quickly, I have just a moment or two left here. Tucker Carlson says he wants to start a third political party. And I've known Tucker for a long time. I used to, when I worked at Fox 5, the local Fox affiliate in Washington, we did a morning show. I was the host of that show for a while. And Tucker would come on with another woman named Margaret Carlson. I think she was with USA Today. And they would debate the issues of the day. And I'd known Tucker since the mid-'90s. On my worst day in Washington, Tucker grabbed me around the shoulder and consoled me. So I like Tucker on a personal level. I don't agree with a lot of things he's saying these days, but, I like him on a personal level. He may be right, though, about this. If there are that many people out there who have left, the Democrat Party's going increasingly to the left, and it may be said that maybe the Republican Party is a bit more conservative than it was years ago. There might be room in the middle for somebody. I just don't think Tucker Carlson is the guy to lead them. But he spoke to the Columbia Journalism Review and says he will be working to build a third party in America. Ross Perot's the only guy that's ever made a good run at it in recent years. Got, 19% of the vote? That's what I want to say. Something like that. Well, good luck, Tucker. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Let's call it 53 and a half past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, listen, I just want to say thank you so much to Matt Murphy for letting me fill in for him today. He'll be back on Monday. Listen, I hope you have a great 4th of July weekend. And you know, if you got nothing planned, if you're looking for something fun to do, let me just say, here in Bucolic, Watertown, we do a great parade. It's a nice small town parade. It's very Americana, and it's different in that, well, you got to bring a squirt gun. And anybody who's in the parade, you can squirt them, especially the elected officials. They like it. And they may squirt you back. So it's a good time that's had by everybody. Fireworks a little bit later when the sun goes down. We'd love to have you in Bucolic, Watertown for that. But again, thank you so much for being with us. Have a great 4th of July. Enjoy your time with family. Eat a hot dog, see a parade, watch some fireworks, and enjoy what it is to be an American on this, the 250th anniversary of the founding of this country. See you soon.